serving Erie, Huron, and Lake counties and beyond. This is Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVME Meadville, WVMN Newcastle, WVMU Ashtabula, or stream us anywhere with the Moody Radio app, other streaming services, and at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
There is an ongoing multi-agency rescue operation underway in Baltimore after a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. A massive collapse followed as the ship then caught fire and sank. A number of vehicles are reported to have fallen into the water, while there's been no word yet on deaths and injuries. The incident is being treated as a mass casualty event. Crews in Canton are installing signs to deter people from directly giving money to panhandlers. Folks instead are being asked to give such donations to organizations designed to help people in need, like the Salvation Army and the Akron-Canton Food Bank. And a new study says Ohioans are not getting enough sleep. According to the CDC, adults should get at least 7 hours of sleep each night. A study ranks Ohio as the 4th worst state for those who do not get enough sleep. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Culture is constantly shifting, and the future seems discouraging and uncertain. You're doing your best to make sense of the strangest of times. Learn to live with the hope and courage of Jesus Christ. Read Daniel Henderson's book, Never Shaken, Finding Your Footing When the World is Sliding Away. Inspired by King David's example in Psalm 15, you'll discover how to build a meaningful life and legacy, all of it anchored in the unshakable promises of your God. Never Shaken, available now at moodybooks.org.
In sports, the Cavaliers blew out the Hornets 115-92. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Showers, windy, cooler today with highs in the mid-50s. Currently, we've got cloudy skies and 53 degrees in Cleveland. Akron and Canton, cloudy and 49. Ashtabula, clear skies and 49 degrees.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
As we deal with an economy that continues to deteriorate, many are looking for an extra source of income. Some of the obvious are driving for Uber, Lyft, or DoorDash. But if you're looking for other options more to your liking, try flexjobs.com or upwork.com to see the multitude of gigs that just might be right for you. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It is 6:02 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
We're back. It's Tuesday. We were off yesterday, but we still had some great content. I saw somebody online was grateful for the Dr. Gersovich conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. How much did you guys miss me? Go ahead. One at a time.
Oh, tremendously.
Just kidding. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I learned something new, texting etiquette, that even the youngest one among us will be startled by this.
We'll see.
Wow.
We'll see, says Daria. So I'm minding my own business.
Not likely.
Okay, thank you. Always waiting for Ron to jump in. Sitting on the couch, one side of me, my lovely wife, Sarah. The other side of me, my daughter, Sophia. She's a sophomore.
Also lovely.
Very lovely. And I'm texting somebody. I don't know. I think it was either Lauren or Josh or I don't know. All of you. Who knows? We text all the time. And she's just looking over my shoulder because kids get all up in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm typing a sentence, and I finish the sentence with a period. Yeah. Because I wasn't super excited. I wasn't questioning anything. So there's something required at the end.
Completing the sentence.
So I hit period, and she goes, "Oh, you put a period there." And I was like, "Yes."
Yes, that is English grammar.
So she's like, "Oh, so you're mad?" I was like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
No, I only put a period there if I'm angry. Okay. What? She goes, "Yeah. Oh no, if you put a period, it means you're mad." And
Yeah.
I looked at another high schooler in the room and I said, "Is this a thing?" "Well, with younger people, yeah." How do you write a text?
How do you know, how do you go to the next sentence is my question.
Exactly.
I wonder if they're only texting a sentence at a time. Is
Oh,
that
it's
what
like
we're doing?
one sentence send, one sentence send.
That's my daughter.
I thought that was a text faux pas, though, too, because I don't want to get all those notifications, or maybe that's just a me thing.
Well, they're not texting to begin with. They're snapping.
That's true.
Snapping or
That's
whatever they're
true.
doing.
Yeah, my
That's a
oldest
good
daughter was like,
point.
"Dad, I have like 200 unread text messages." I'm like, "Excuse me?" She doesn't care. They don't care about texts. But if you text to a kid and you put a period, you're upset.
Okay.
Did you know
She
that?
said, "Oh wow, you're mad."
I've heard it. I think it's stupid.
Yeah, I've heard it before too.
Good old lady Gen Z over there. Kids these days.
Yeah. Back in my day.
Did you use periods when you were a kid?
Yeah, like K, like the letter K period, that was like the upper echelon of I'm mad at you.
Really?
Really.
Full uppercase K.
So you're saying okay, but you're not even willing to put the O. You're just
K. All right, whatever.
And you put a period
that's
just to
good.
emphasize your irritation.
Yes.
Lauren's going to start doing that
That's
now.
good. Okay.
But millennials still use periods.
Yeah. There's no other way.
How do you express that to Eddie, like, for example, that you're upset with him in a text?
All caps.
Maybe
All
I'm
caps
just
is the
really
worst.
short in my texts. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you're just putting very few words because
Like
you-
K.
when you're happy with him, you're verbose.
Probably, yeah.
When you're unhappy, it's K.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just move on from the situation. Yeah.
All right. Ron, do you text when you're upset or do you just put it down?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of texting. I prefer it to phone calls though. Much more preferred.
Not Brian.
Lauren mentioned last week that I like to cold call, so now
Constantly.
I'm cranking up the game.
Oh wow.
I'm just like, "Hey, it's me, just calling."
He called me the other day. He said, "You never answer my phone." Oh, no, I didn't answer. And then he texted, "You never answer my phone calls."
I'm cranking up my game. When you said I called, hey, that's exactly what I do now.
Yeah. I even saw it on a TV show we were watching where a guy sent a text kind of late at night, but to somebody else. And it was just like, "Hey, are you up?" And the person called him. And he's like, "Oh, whoa, wait, you're not supposed to call. You're just supposed to text back and
reply.
tell me you're up."
Oh.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in my defense, I drive like 2 hours a day, and I'm not supposed to be fumbling with my phone. Thank you very much.
True fact.
Jimmy does that. He calls his mom on his way home from work because he has a longer drive, too.
Oh. I don't want to say you're my work mom, but it kind of went there, and I'm just going to leave it.
My own mom knows to text me before she calls me.
Oh, Sarah
to
gets
see
so
if
mad
I'm prepared.
if her mom
Right.
calls.
My oldest sister does the same thing. My middle sister has been influenced by her boyfriend who loves a cold call, so now she cold calls, and it's not
Oh.
okay.
She's got to dump him.
Yeah, exactly.
Get rid of that guy.
They've been dating like 7 years now. He's
All
the
right.
best.
Hey, it is 6:11. We've got a couple of things to do,
Mm.
and then we're going to dive into some internet business here. First of all, we've got our friend, David DeFelice, is coming around 8:30-ish.
Good.
And he's, again, former NASA Director of Communications at the Glenn Research Center. We're going to get warmed up even more for the Eclipse, which is like next week. And we're going to be part of it.
It's
It's
in
going to be amazing.
2
It's in
weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks
It's
yesterday.
2 weeks from yesterday. 2 weeks. April's next week, so
I know,
that
April
it
just
felt
feels
like
fast. Yeah.
I'm not in charge of calendars around here.
That's okay.
In 2 weeks, it's going to be the Eclipse, and David's going to help get us warmed up for that. We also have a new friend stopping by from HarvestNet Ministries. And in just a minute, like the internet was having a grand old time trying to figure out, where's Princess Kate? Let's make up where she is. Let's make up all the stories. And then we found out why she's gone.
I also saw one that
Okay.
said her video that came out was AI, that it was fake.
We got to talk about this. We'll get to it in just a minute.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
When Sarah called CareNet's pregnancy decision line, she was scared and alone. Maria answered and listened as Sarah told her that her pregnancy was unplanned and that she was considering abortion. Maria talked to Sarah about all her options and gave her medical information about fetal development and what is really involved in an abortion. Maria also told Sarah about a local pregnancy center where she could receive personal attention and pregnancy services free of charge. With the compassion, hope, and help offered by Pregnancy Decision Line, Sarah chose life for her baby. CareNet has collected 40 stories just like Sarah's and put them together in a free 40-day devotional. Designed to inform and encourage you, these stories will inspire you to pray for mothers and fathers who need to know that abortion is not their only choice. Download your free devotional today at care-net.org/Moody. care-net.org/Moody. It's not insurance, and that's a new way of thinking for some families. Christian Healthcare Ministries is a credible way to meet family healthcare costs affordably, biblically, and effectively, whether starting or growing your family. Serving families as a nonprofit healthcare sharing ministry for over 40 years, CHM has offered families the freedom to choose how they would like to meet healthcare costs. Be pleasantly surprised and find answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Moody Radio is thankful for the support from our listeners and Bridgeway Homeschool Academy, proud to provide 30 years of flexible curriculum programs and one-on-one support for homeschoolers. Learn more about textbook, online, and live online homeschool classes at bridgewayacademy.com.
Get up, get ready, and get going. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
619 WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Don't forget that Glory in the Skies, a total solar eclipse event, is coming on Monday, April 8th. It's in 2 weeks from yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. There's going to be, it's a free event, free parking, fun activities, food trucks, live programs, live music, all that stuff. Plus, this here show is going to be broadcasting live from Hope Church in Brunswick at this event from 3 to 4 in the midst of the actual eclipse itself. We'll preempt Chris Fabry and hang out with you. You can crank on the radio or put the app on as you and your family are doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
And most interesting to me that day will be to see if all of the panic is about traffic and everything is going to be real.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Everyone's panicking, like, get your survival gear, get in a bunker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once it's over, about 3:15 or something, are people just going to jump in their cars and there's going to be gridlock as they all head back to their motel or their house?
We'll find out.
My parents went to the Eclipse a number of years ago in Kentucky, and they said, yes, it took them forever to get back.
Oh.
So
Ron.
I'm trying to convince, so they're in the Columbus area, and they're coming up for it. I'm trying to convince them to leave the house at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to get up there because we don't know what the traffic's going to be like. My mom's like, well, good luck convincing your dad of that. My dad is not a morning person.
Well, I think I should bring a sleeping bag in case to sleep over at Ron's house. He lives near the church, so.
Yeah, it's not too far. Well,
party at Ron's.
It might be a couple-hour drive on that day, but
right. Yeah, and I was glad to see Cuyahoga Falls is warning all of us not to drive with our Eclipse glasses on.
Yes.
I told Sarah about that, and she walked over to the window, put on her Eclipse glasses, and said, "Yeah, I can't see a thing." I don't know why someone would drive with these on.
Because they want to see it. They want to look at the sun while they're driving.
Don't do that. All right. In other news, for weeks, hundreds of people online have spread conspiracy theories, posted memes, and cracked jokes in an attempt to answer one question. Where is Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales? Where is she? Kensington Palace repeatedly said that Kate was recovering from a planned January abdominal surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Still, official responses, as well as an edited image posted to the palace's social media channels, only fueled more unsubstantiated rumors. And in defense of the public, it wasn't even a great Photoshop. Like Kensington Palace, you should have just done nothing or posted an actual picture as opposed to one where we can, like, it takes the internet 5 seconds to see that you've edited the photo.
Mm.
Right? In fairness to people, it was a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
just don't say anything at all.
over there, she's a big deal. Here it's just the entertainment groupies, that want to know, oh, what's she doing? But over there, she's the princess. She's the wife of the next king.
Yeah.
And so they do want to know. She's kind of like the Princess Di of this generation.
Yeah, well, even if you're over here, if you're into the royal family, I think she's the favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I started to see, I don't really care about those kind of things, but I saw it pop up when you saw the family photo that was posted by Kensington Palace of her with the circles on it of see how messed up this photo is. That's when I started seeing it. But many people who had partaken in the online frenzy found themselves expressing regret after the princess broke her silence on Friday. In a video message to the public, the 42-year-old wife of Prince William, Britain's future king, announced she was diagnosed with cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. And so, this article from NBC highlights a number of people who are sorry for being rude on the internet, like Blake Lively, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, wow, I'm so sorry. Whoops. I definitely feel bad laughing about Kate Gate, somebody wrote. Okay, good.
Yeah. Now, take that internal feeling and stop doing stupid things like that.
You tell him, Ron.
What did you all think once you found out she had cancer?
I had not been following it at all, so that's the first I've heard of it. But when she disappeared, I figured it was a health issue.
So were you like sharing memes and laughing while she was disappeared?
No, I was slightly concerned because I'm like, I don't really care or follow the royal family, but I know enough to know that's not like them. So I'm like, oh, someone's very sick.
And then you just moved on with your life.
Yeah.
You didn't post a photo and go, I wonder if she's hiding. Is
No.
she kidnapped?
No.
There were rumors of, she's mad at him because he had an affair, all these other things.
They started pulling out all like the cheating rumors and mistress rumors.
What did you do with it?
I didn't post anything about it.
But you were kind of interested.
I assumed the same as Daria. If they're not posting about it, it's because they want it to remain private, and I don't understand why we can't just allow something to be private anymore.
We can't.
No. Like, if it's private and no one's saying anything, then it must be the worst case scenario of they're getting divorced and he's cheating on her or something like that. Or she's missing. There was a lot of those, like, oh, she's already gone. She's missing. They've done something with her. And it's like, can you just, like, give them space? Don't you want space when you have personal things going on?
Well, and this is where we are now. So the part of the article I really wanted to zero in on here is this one. The fervor around Kate's whereabouts and the subsequent online remorse has underscored a pattern in which the absence of information provides perfect fodder for creators chasing relevance on algorithm-driven social media platforms. Everybody's trying to jump in to get a piece of the viral pie, so to speak, said Jessica Maddox, an assistant professor of, I don't know, the internet, who knows. And it's essentially like this is how it works now.
Yeah.
People want to see the hottest take, and when something goes viral, you want to jump on the bandwagon in order to make yourself some money.
Right.
And make yourself some more influence in society.
Yeah, journalistic ethics out the window. There's no more you got to verify once, let alone with 2 or 3 sources. It's just you have to put your hot take out there, and everybody jumps on it.
Yeah, and do it as quick as possible, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is also, Ron, where, I mean, since the average person, you know, John Doe's got his own platform now from the social media. He doesn't care about journalistic ethics, never been trained. Like, even journalists now have to start reporting on what ridiculous people are doing on the internet. And so it all just kind of jumps on top of each other. Yeah. But the article predicted, and experts are saying, well, people did feel bad. This isn't going to stop anything. Because still, the recipe for success on the internet is, in the absence of information, create an answer in order to get influence.
What we need is somebody to start collecting all these missteps by celebrity influencers and, you know, just have a nice little collection. And then at some point put out, you know, look, Blake, what's-her-face, 10 times in a row, jumped out there with a thing and then had to retract it. Can you even trust Blake what's-her-face?
Ron's making a burn book.
Exactly. And then, you know, you put these people in their place, you know, out them, whatever it is, and they start to see just how stupid they are by jumping out there with that. And maybe people will say, you know what, I'm going to unsubscribe. And all of a sudden, the $1 million a month income dries up.
I wish I had the faith in the internet and humanity that you do, Ron. I really do.
Yeah, no, I don't think, I mean, you're right, Ron. We could make an internet burn book and I don't think it would matter.
Right.
We already have one. It's called Twitter.
Yeah. And what this article talks about is oftentimes, like, this is a very rare occurrence where much of the internet goes, whoops, sorry about that. She actually has cancer. Usually what happens is people double down and go, actually, that's not true. What they're telling us what's actually happening is this. And you said you saw that already.
Yeah, it's already happening. Because she posted a video, you know, she's in like a park or something in a bench, and that's where she's sharing that she has cancer, and that's where she's been. And everyone's like, this is AI. Look at her mouth. It's not moving right. Look at this. It's not moving right. That's an AI video. She's not there. That's not her.
No, you look at the hands and the feet. If she's got 3 fingers, it's AI. But if she's got all 5 fingers, it's probably real.
Well, and I mean, this is a rare case. Usually, and I guess it's all changing since this article was written, but usually conspiracy theorists double down.
Mm-hmm. Often.
Even when they're faced with the truth. So what do we do with this as believers? It's really troubling stuff. I mean, I even caught myself laughing yesterday. I saw there was an article, or it was just like a picture of Prince Charles, King Charles, pardon me. It's been a lot of years. He was Prince. And it had circles like on his shoulder, like on his tie and somewhere else. And it was like obviously a fake, you know. And then it took me a minute to realize like he was supposed to be crossing his hands, but it was a pile of raw bratwurst. It took me a minute to see that, but it didn't circle that part. And I was like, oh, it's funny. Look at that. Yeah. Everybody's looking for, but you missed the thing. And I laughed because it was funny. But I'm ultimately laughing at Kate Middleton now because it's making fun of her.
How?
Because of the photo that was faked, because she didn't want people to know she had cancer, she wanted a private life.
I bet it's not her. She had nothing to do with it. It was the people. They're like, we have to say something.
Yeah, they gave the intern the Photoshop job.
I
don't know how to use it. Just do it. Do it, right? Get in there. Make the photo.
They're much more posh than that, Brian. Please.
So, I mean, I've had a problem with a long time for Christians in conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
It happens in politics, and now it's just, that's the nature of social media.
Yeah.
So what do? We can't just jump off of social media and abandon it because we have great connections with our listening family. Right now, we're on social media, live streaming.
Yeah. I know it's uncomfortable and we don't like having to do that, but we should give people the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
If they're posting something and it's like poorly photoshopped, then maybe there's a reason for it. I don't think, assume that they're not trying to be deceitful for deceitful purposes. They're doing it to protect their family.
Yep.
And we don't do that. We don't trust people.
Yeah, if you've watched The Crown, that TV show on Netflix, you see just how ruthless the photographers and paparazzi are. In fact, that led to Princess Di's death, paparazzi chasing her.
Yeah, I did a whole write-up years ago on conspiracy theories when it was first really invading American politics. And there's multiple reasons why I think Christians ought to avoid any sort of conspiracy theory, even if it seems silly. It's a photoshopped picture of Kate Middleton. It's gossip, which is sinful. It's inconsistent with the fruits of the Spirit. I mean, I can go into detail, but these are just the general things. It's lying. And remember, Proverbs 6 says that one of the things the Lord detests is a lying tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So a whole bunch of people need to repent that were like, oh, I bet she's this, I bet she's that. And then it's conduct unbecoming an ambassador of Christ to participate in that kind of garbage. And yet it's become normative, not just on the internet, but I think in the church, to say, well, somebody lied to me once on the internet, or somebody in government or somebody in pop culture lied to me. This is a lie too. And my job is I'm an internet detective. I'm Sherlock Bryan, and I'm going to make sure the world knows it's a lie.
We just need to remember that the person on the other end of the screen is also a person, whether it just be someone you're friends with on Facebook or encounter on Twitter or even a celebrity. They're real people, and we are not entitled to anyone else's personal information or their time. I think that's the worst part of social media and having a cell phone in your pocket at all times is we're all always reachable. People put their public information out there, and if we can't reach someone or if we don't have the information we think we're owed, we get angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that the two of you talked about approaching it. You saw it, you're like, oh, I hope she's okay. Next. We just shouldn't dig into that stuff. We should, unless we have a reason to disbelieve something, why not just accept what you're told and move on with life? Then somebody will say, well, that's how you get caught, right? That's Richard Nixon lied to everybody. I'm not a crook. Actually, you are.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is
problem,
be on the
not my
lookout.
problem.
Well, they're lying to us. We want to make sure we're not being lied to.
What can I do about it? Nothing. So
yeah, what does creating an internet firestorm over, a C-list celebrity do for anybody?
Yeah.
How dare you call her C-list? She's like AA list.
Maybe in England, but here, she's a person, and I wish her and her family best through her cancer journey, but it's no one's business.
Yeah, Christians, get away from the conspiracy theories.
Please.
What an embarrassment that the church is anywhere near garbage that's conspiracy theory. Whether you think it's serious or light, get away from that garbage. We got nothing to do with all that. Shouldn't have anything to do with it. All right, 6:33, time for a quick break. When we come back, turns out a writer for The Atlantic thinks you're complaining the wrong way. Was I just complaining? Maybe I was doing it wrong.
We'll see.
Stick around to find out.
When pain and suffering come upon us, we finally see not only that we are not in control, but that we never were. I'm Darcy Harrod, and this is Pause for Prayer. This quote from Tim Keller is just so eye-opening. How often do we think we are actually the ones running our lives? We make decisions and plan big. We want to control every last thing. And then something painful happens that we don't expect, and we just can't understand why. But as Tim Keller also says, just because you can't see or imagine a good reason why God would allow something bad to happen doesn't mean there can't be one. Let's pause for prayer. Father, I don't pretend to know even an ounce of all the pain some of our listeners are going through right now. But you do, Lord. You do. You know each of us intimately. As Psalm 139:2 says, you know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts, even when I'm far away. Father, you know every struggle, every ounce of pain, every tear shed. You hear every prayer, and you never get angry at our questions. Father, I pray for all of the people listening who are going through pain and suffering. I ask you to please help them to see that they're not the ones in control. You are. I pray that you give them a peace that goes beyond human comprehension. I also ask you to help each of us remember Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So, Father, when we're going through pain, we ask you to help us let go of control and grab onto you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
This is why you have to protect your marriage, because people can be that bold.
He's kept the principles the same without changing to what today's economy looks like.
When you actually help someone, you see the difference that you've made in their life.
What's going on online is at least a small indication of the heart of the culture.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.638 WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Don't forget to register for your chance to win this giant, amazing thing with For King and Country. It's a flyaway contest where you and somebody else would get airfare for two, round trip to Nashville. You'd get 2 nights hotel. You get an advanced screening of the movie Unsung Hero, a private concert with For King and Country, a podcast recording. You're there. And $250 in spending money. I mean, you could just eat real light and walk home with cash if you wanted to.
Sure.
Or eat like a king and pay for the rest yourself. King and country.
Eat Nashville hot chicken.
Yeah. Don't have it cold though. Just hot.
Yep.
I don't think I've had
Hot
that.
as in spicy.
Oh.
Nashville barbecue is really good.
See, there you go. Now, we've already spent half your money. Text the word FLY to 440-546-2255. Text FLY to 440-546-2255 for you to register for your chance to win. All right. You're probably complaining the wrong way. Are you a complainer, Lauren?
Yeah.
Whoa, that was fast.
Just know myself.
I mean, do I even have to say whether I am or not?
No.
Yeah, I'm a complainer. Daria?
What?
I can be.
Was that gentle? I can be, or you are?
I can be. Sometimes I am very much a complainer.
I've seen you be very positive, though.
I can complain, though. Believe me, I know how to complain.
Ron?
Once in a while I complain, yep.
But I suppose of all of us, maybe he's the least complainer.
Probably.
That could be.
Lauren,
Yeah.
You've like crowned yourself the complainer, though.
It's better to, say that you're the worst, and then like other people can be like, no, you're really not that bad. But it's better to say that you're the worst.
Set the bar low.
Exactly.
So far, nobody said you're not that bad.
I know. I'm just saying. It's better for people to retract than to be like, actually, you're worse.
This is true. So there's a psychologist. His name is Guy Winch. Awesome name. He wrote a book all about this, and he says there's actually a better way to complain. And he says the words vent and complain are used interchangeably, but they often refer to two different forms of expression. On its face, do we agree or disagree? Venting and complaining are different. We don't know yet?
I feel like I would say they're different, but I'm not sure why I would say that. Like, what's the difference?
Well, here's what he says.
Yeah.
Venting is about seeking validation and sympathy, whereas complaining comes with a concrete goal. In many cases, getting someone else to do something differently.
I personally don't see it that way. When I'm complaining, or maybe I'm confusing complaining and venting in my mind, like, I just need to get something off my chest. There's nothing productive happening. I need to be negative for a couple of minutes.
Jimmy, sit down and listen. I need to vent.
I've done that before.
No, that's actually a good way to do it, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
I don't need your advice. I don't need you to fix this. Just let me complain.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm done, go, that must be hard.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I've recently gotten better at that with some good marriage counseling. It's like, wow. It's hard. Because you want to fix. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going to see if you can buy into what he's saying here. So he says, generally speaking, the psychologist Guy Winch says, people do a lot of venting, but we're afraid to voice complaints, and for good reason. It often doesn't go well. Because of how people typically present complaints, he says that they put their loved ones, friends, and coworkers on the defensive, and as a result, they often don't get what they want. And so he has a better way in a book he wrote called The Squeaky Wheel. So he recommends a formula called the complaint sandwich. I like it already.
Oh, sure. 2 positive things and then a complaint in the middle.
Yeah. I got to this, I was like,
that's good.
Oh, did you make that up, Guy? The sandwich idea? I did that with conferences. When I had a student who was failing, I'd be like, oh, your kid just brightens up my day. They're failing my class completely, but I tell you what, they got a nice smile.
You're supposed to do that with marriage too, right? Like if you have an issue with your spouse, like, hey, I appreciate the way that you do the dishes without me asking, but if you could, maybe take the trash out too. But thank you for making my day better.
I'm ready to take the trash out just now. You want me to do it right now?
Yeah.
That was so nice. So it's a series of 3 statements calibrated to make people more receptive to changing their ways. So the first slice is the slice of bread in the sandwich. It's a positive statement that will hopefully make the listener less defensive when the complaint arrives. For instance, in the case of a significant other who leaves dirty dishes in the sink, now we're getting real here. This drives Sarah nuts. Put it right in the dishwasher. It's like every day we hear about this. I put it in the dishwasher sometimes. The complaint might start something like this. You're such a considerate partner in so many ways, and I love living with you. I'd go, here it comes.
Yeah.
The meat of the sandwich is the complaint itself, and here's the trick. The meat has to be lean. In other words, all you need to do is the one incident to make your point. Don't present like every offense. You always don't do any of that. Just stick to the specifics of the present situation. In the case of the dish lever, it's, I saw that your cereal bowl is in the sink this morning. From this morning, I should say. Well, you're laughing. You do this to Eddie?
No.
Just as it's important not to include the frustrating incidents at this stage, it's also important not to include a generalization. Like you didn't clean up after yourself can veer into criticism, because you're lazy, you're this, you're that, you don't care about me, you don't care about my thoughts. It's just, I noticed you leave this in the sink. Final components, last piece of bread, and it's something like, if you could make an effort to put your dirty dishes in the dishwasher, it would make me so happy. You like it, Daria?
I do. I like not making the complaint personal and trying to psychoanalyze everything this means or dumping all your feelings about what it means on the other person. Just, I noticed you did this. Can you please not?
No, but you didn't do it right. You didn't make it a sandwich. That was just the meat. You have to go, boy, Jimmy, you're just the most handsome guy I know. I love living with you. You're so nice to look at. I saw that you left your bowl. I'm practicing. I saw you left your bowl in the sink from breakfast. It sure would make me happy if you put that right in the dishwasher. Was that it?
You forgot the secondary.
The second part of the
sandwich. That was it.
No, you didn't. You got to put the other piece of bread on
Oh,
there.
yeah. Well,
you make me so happy it would make me happy.
Is the sandwich.
No, it's not.
No, that's justifying why you want this thing to happen.
Yeah.
You sure are handsome, Jimmy. It's hard to do it right.
It's really hard to do with someone else's spouse, too, I'm sure.
No, I'm waiting for somebody to go, well, right, yeah, exactly. Somebody might go, hey, guys, haven't you ever read Philippians 2? I'm waiting for it. Philippians 2:14.
Why don't you jog our memories?
Do all things without grumbling or disputing, or if you're reading the New Living Translation, do everything without complaining or arguing. Don't complain. So who cares about, right? Some Christian person will go, how dare you guys on Christian radio say there's a right way to complain when the Bible says don't complain. Ding. Couldn't find my bell for a second.
It didn't say complain, though.
What do you mean?
It says, say it again.
Well, it depends on the translation. Which one would you like?
Both.
Okay, so the New Living Translation is do everything without complaining and arguing. Okay. And the ESV, English Standard Version, is do all things without grumbling or disputing.
Wow.
I think I like the ESV better.
Why?
Because that one says grumbling and arguing. Is that what that one is? Grumbling and disputing.
Correct.
So I think complaining can potentially have a wrong context, and I'm no scholar, but maybe that's not the best translation. But grumbling is inherently negative. Like if you say yes, I'll do this, and then you're complaining, grumbling the whole way. Mm-hmm. That's a heart issue. Or disputing, that's creating problems where there don't need to be any.
And yet we had someone call in a number of weeks ago that said, just pick up the dish, put it in the dishwasher, get over yourself. They don't need to conform to you. You be, a sacrificial person.
Yeah, but that goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. So what do we do with this? There's actually, because honestly, this is what will happen. Somebody will read Philippians 2 and go, see, Christians shouldn't complain. Well, that can't be accurate. Or David's got a lot of answering to do.
Yeah.
In the imprecatory Psalms. So is there a way to complain the right way? Can we complain? Should we complain? If we do, what does it look like? We'll get to that here in just a minute.
Did you know the average person walks nearly 2,000 miles a year? Now think about the millions of children around the world who risk disease and miss out on opportunities simply because they walk those 2,000 miles without a decent pair of shoes. For the past 25 years, Buckner Shoes for Orphan Souls has provided more than 5 million pairs of shoes to kids in some of the most vulnerable communities in the world. That's over 5 million opportunities to put a smile on the face of a child and show God's love to boys and girls living in desperate situations. Many times, those shoes introduce families to Christ-centered programs, helping them rise above poverty and achieve their God-given potential. I'm Rob West, inviting you to provide shoes and share the love of Christ with children around the world and here in the United States. Find out how you can make an impact at giveshoestoday.org. That's giveshoestoday.org.
Based on the book by Colin Smith, Heaven, How I Got Here is the story of the thief on the cross.
This is it. This is the day I die.
Told in his own words, the thief looks back from heaven on the day that changed his eternity.
Jesus, I said, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Don't miss Heaven, How I Got Here. Listen on demand. Go to moodyradio.org and click on the Heaven, How I Got Here banner.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
650 WCRF. Don't forget, there's a big Eclipse event at Hope Church in Brunswick coming up Monday, April 8th. We're going to broadcast the show live that morning. Plus, we'll do a very special mornings team broadcast during the eclipse. So you can either show up or listen in as we're going to give you the, sort of the play-by-play. But we'll just be keeping it Christ-focused for those of you that want to do that, okay? So for more information, text MOON to 440-546-2255. All right, so if you're just tuning in, we're looking at an article from The Atlantic in which it highlights a theory from psychologist Guy Winch, wrote a book called The Squeaky Wheel. He encourages people to complain using the complaint sandwich, which is like positive, lean complaint. Just one incident, not a list, not a lifetime, not absolutes, and then another compliment. Mm-hmm. And that's how you can do that well. Mm-hmm. Well, I can just picture the hyper-spiritual person in their car going, well, Bible says don't complain. How dare you, Lauren, say that we should complain? Philippians 2:14, do everything without complaining and arguing, says the New Living Translation. Well, I wonder what you guys think of this. I found this from Desiring God Ministries, and this gets to what Daria was pointing out, the grumbling versus complaining. You and Lauren were talking about this. Is grumbling a better word? So the writer says you can complain without grumbling. So here's what he says. When we complain, it's frequently evil, but complaining is not necessarily evil. There's a faithful way to complain and a faithless way to complain. The Bible often refers to faithless complaining as grumbling and warns us not to do that. Grumbling complaints directly or indirectly declare that God is not sufficiently good, faithful, loving, wise, powerful, or competent. Otherwise, he would have treated us better and run the universe more effectively for us.
The way we want it.
Yes. But faithful complaining does not impugn God with wrong. Rather, it's an honest, groaning expression of what it's like to live in a fallen world. Like the writer of Ecclesiastes does that a lot, like the whole book. David does it pretty frequently. I had to talk my way out of this on the way. I was thinking about something that really frustrated me on the way to work today. And I had to stop and go, Brian, the world's not out to get you. Like most people in their lives don't think about you. And they got their own issues going on.
Yeah.
And you're just a casualty of their issues. They're not intentionally going, how will I annoy Brian today?
Mm-hmm. Main character syndrome.
Do I have that? I did today.
I think we all have it to an extent.
I had to talk myself out of it. But I think the same situation, there would have been a better way for me to complain. Like my heart was, these people don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
But what really was going on is I felt bad that I was ignored. Mm-hmm. And it's normal to feel bad that you're ignored.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to stop making it about some sort of...
Most likely it's not about you.
No.
It's another person's problem. And you just happened to be there in their way when they were having a problem.
And they don't care about you, not in like, I don't care about specifically Brian Dolan. It's more that I have other issues and I'm not even thinking about Brian Dolan.
Yeah, the amount of... I had students that would presume this, right? That, I had like 150 students each semester. And they're like, you're out to get me. And I just
don't think about you.
I'd be like, I got to be honest, I never think about you outside of this classroom. I go home and I hang out with my wife, and I'm not plotting against you.
Yeah.
What's your name again? It's like, but we all have that concept. So how can we be better? I mean, I like the complaint sandwich, but I don't like his complaining versus venting. as he put it. It's almost complaining versus grumbling is how Christians ought to view it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you think about in like a work context, you can file a formal complaint against someone, and that's not wrong. It's like how you do it and how you talk about it. Are you being unkind and mean about the other person that you're complaining about? Just like with like everything we talk about, it's a heart issue.
Right, exactly. Right, because we don't get a pass to not display the fruits of the Spirit when we've had a wrong committed against us.
Yeah.
So with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and self-control, we can lodge a complaint.
Yeah, you probably should. If someone's being inappropriate at work, you should go lodge a complaint against them so that your HR department knows about it. But that doesn't mean you're in the wrong for complaining about them. It's how you do it. You do it like with, respect and discretion and in a kind way. You're not degrading or mean about them back just because maybe they did the same thing to you. You're just airing the grievance, saying this is what happened.
Yeah, I like that. I think at its heart, a complaint is just verbalizing an injustice or a perceived injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And you could handle that well or you could handle that poorly.
Yeah.
Without meaning to do so, we've focused primarily on like marriage and family relationships and work. And I think in life, primarily, that's kind of where those things pop up anyway, right? I mean, in church life, it might. But work and home, certainly. So if Eddie were annoying you or being rude, like, for example, every morning leaving his bowl of cereal. Does he eat cereal?
Yes.
On the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just put it right in the dishwasher. How are we going to handle that? Do you like the complaint sandwich?
I don't like the complaint sandwich if it's going to be used all the time, because then the person you're talking to is going to think that the nice things that you're saying about them you're only saying them with something they need to work on afterwards. I feel like nice things about someone should be more sacred, in so much that like that you are doing it alone so that it feels more weight. You're not saying it just so that you can say this other thing they need to work on.
Yeah, I like that. In fact, it's a practice, I think, to be intentionally positive and complimentary, especially to your spouse or your kids. Because let's be honest, they're annoying a lot.
Yeah.
We love them, but they're annoying a lot. And so like you talked off the air about how you and Eddie do this. And Sarah and I are trying, with marriage help and marriage counseling, we've gotten better at, like if she does the dishes, I'll be like, hey, thanks for doing the dishes. Last night I made dinner, which was, we had meatball subs.
Oh,
I dumped
heck yeah.
frozen meatballs in a crock pot, poured a can or a jar of spaghetti sauce on it, and turned on the crock pot. She still thanked me. She's like, hey, thanks for making dinner. I was like, well, it wasn't that hard. She goes, but thanks.
Right.
And that, over time, you're kind of like filling up your account.
Yes.
And so her coming to me with a kind, lean complaint should be no big deal at all. And that's kind of the point you're making, I think.
Yeah.
I think it could become manipulative if you're not careful.
And then genuinely insincere.
Yeah. I got to come up with a couple things I like about this person before I talk about this thing they did wrong.
And then they're just like the worst compliments. Like, hey, I like those shoes. Anyway, Jimmy, knock it off.
Right.
Nice shoes. So I think, what else the complaint sandwich does is it forces you to stop for a minute and remember the person's not out to get you.
Yes, it's hard to feel. It's so hard to do that, though.
Yeah, like Eddie is not
I constantly
every
feel
morning.
like people are out to get me.
I do too. The world is out to get me. It's so dumb. But you have to coach yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And for you, it would be like, okay, Eddie is leaving his cereal bowl out again. Okay. Whew. He can't possibly be doing it to make me annoyed.
Yeah. He's probably in a rush. He's also got 2 kids to take care of.
But this drives me crazy. So I love Eddie. I have to. This is you talking, obviously. I mean, I love him like a friend. And so I got to come up with like a legit thing about him. Wow, he really does care for Trey and Ellis so well. Maybe that's why he didn't do this. See, that's how you walk down that road. It can help you stay biblical, I think. Now you're flipping your Bible pages over there. What are we doing?
We had a listener suggest we read all of Philippians 2, so I was just going to do that. Not on air right at this moment. I'm going to read it first, but that's what I was doing.
Okay.
If you must ask.
Oh, I thought you were ready to throw down some Bible trivia for us. But I mean, generally speaking, it's Philippians 2 is about having an attitude of Christ and shining the light of the gospel in your life every day. Like being like Christ everywhere. That's what it's about. Which makes perfect sense when Paul is saying, don't walk around grumbling all the time.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Any other comments you'd like to toss in there? We had a bunch of text messages.
Someone said, is there a difference between complaining and addressing a situation?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I would say complaining is, whether you do it well or not, complaining is your way of addressing the situation.
Yeah, because addressing a situation, I suppose, could be positive. I'd like to address how talented Daria is right now. I mean, we could do that.
But we don't have to.
No.
Someone said, I think complaining is objective, where grumbling is subjective.
I don't know if I can go there. Are both subjective? Like, for example, dish in the sink. There really is, like, Sarah prefers a dish to go directly in the dishwasher. I prefer to put it right in the sink.
And do all the dishes at once.
There is not a better or worse or objective right or wrong way. There is a preference.
But she could still complain that you're putting dishes in the sink, is what you're saying.
Because it drives her nutty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know that there is I don't know if complaining is objective. Like, I could complain about the way Ron does something off the air, but it doesn't mean he's doing it wrong.
I might be.
I usually am. Something to consider. Maybe on Friday we'll follow up on this puppy. It's 7 o'clock, time for Ron's News and today's More Ron Moment. And in just a few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit more. In fact, Don't Tell America is going to be a startling headline. Don't tell America that the babysitter's dead. It's not quite what you think.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Biden administration is defending its decision to allow the UN Security Council to pass a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. It's 7:01. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. abstained from the vote because the resolution does not condemn Hamas. The resolution, unlike others in the past, does tie a temporary ceasefire to the release of hostages held by the militant group. 52 new recruits have begun training at the Cleveland Police Academy. The group met for the first time yesterday. Officials say the new class is 7 times the size of the last recruiting class. And Cleveland Clinic Akron General will be conducting an active shooter drill today. The drill will run from 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on the first floor of the hospital. The public is being notified about the drill because loud noises, an increase in law enforcement, actors portraying real patients, and actors carrying items which appear to be weapons are all expected. Sports and weather coming right up.
Our culture is changing rapidly, and it's easy to get caught up in the frenzy. There is a way to stop the madness. Focal Point Ministries and Moody Radio are offering you a free copy of Encouraged by the Psalms by Pastor Mike Fabarez. Many of the Psalms were written by people who looked beyond their current troubles and found encouragement for their soul. Get your free copy of Encouraged by the Psalms by going to moodyradio.org/encouraged.
In sports, the Cavaliers blew out the Hornets 115-92. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Showers, windy, and cooler today with highs in the mid-50s. At last check, light rain reported in Cleveland, 52 degrees. Akron and Canton, light rain now, 47 degrees. Worcester, still cloudy skies and 46 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
As we deal with an economy that continues to deteriorate, many are looking for an extra source of income. Some of the obvious are driving for Uber, Lyft, or DoorDash, but if you're looking for other options more to your liking, try flexjobs.com or upwork.com to see the multitude of gigs that might be right for you. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:04 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Profits. This is WCRF. It's 7:08 here on Mornings with Brian. Don't forget, you can join us for the Eclipse. We're going to be broadcasting live the morning of and then during the eclipse at Hope Church in Brunswick for their Glory in the Skies event. It's going to be 2 weeks from yesterday, and we can't wait to see you there. It's going to be fantastic. There'll be like food trucks and like all of our families are going to be there. Oh, yeah, the cow will be there, as
Yes.
I've heard. Pictures with the cow.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to learn more, text MOON to 440-546-2255. The Atlantic says that we shouldn't tell America the babysitter's dead. The babysitter's dead. Not actually dead. The concept.
Okay.
The idea of a babysitter.
Yeah. Ron, did you have babysitters growing up?
Yes.
A lot?
Yeah, pretty frequently.
Who were they?
There was one particular family that had like 5 daughters.
Yeah.
So we would rifle through them. We'd just call, one and say, hey, are you available? No, but I think my sister is. So they'd pass the phone over and, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
the Swingle girls.
Yeah, we had the Schwartz girls and the somebody else girls. I don't remember who they were, but I remember on a regular basis we'd have, teenage girls coming over. First time I saw Grease was in the 80s when this teenage girl made my brother and I sit down and watch it with her. I don't remember enjoying it really particularly all that much. Remember watching a lot of Star Trek when they were over. Daria, did you have a babysitter?
Yeah, my dad has always worked at college campuses, so it is usually someone that was an intern and came through his office or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Now, you moved a lot, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Did your parents have babysitters for you?
Just because we moved, we didn't know people.
Well, but it's harder to meet people when you move.
No, because my sister is 8 years older than me, my oldest sister.
Oh, so
I didn't
they
need
watched
one.
you.
Yeah, my sisters are 5 and 8 years older than me.
Okay.
So it's just them. So one time they were babysitting me, and I was like, I'm leaving, and I packed my soccer suitcase. It had a soccer ball in the front with my stuffed animals, and I left. You couldn't do that with a babysitter. Your sisters, you can.
Where'd you go?
To the top of the street.
Did you? What else? I mean, you had stuffed animals and a soccer ball. Did you bring clothes?
No, I didn't have a soccer ball. I had a soccer suitcase.
Oh, I see.
No clothes, just my stuffed animals.
That's all
I
you
said,
need.
Bye. I'm leaving.
What did they do to you?
They yelled at me from the door and then went inside.
They knew you were going to
She'll
come
be
back.
She can't get far without any food.
That's cute. How old were you?
Elementary school, so maybe like 3rd or 4th grade, probably.
You think your parents were mad if they found out?
No.
They wouldn't have cared?
No.
So your sisters would have been in what, high school, roughly?
Yes.
Wow.
Let her go. She'll be back.
Well, here's what The Atlantic says, and I'm curious to dig into this with you guys. Babysitting used to be both a job and a rite of passage for countless American teens and especially teen girls. It was a tentative step towards adulthood. Responsibility, but with guardrails. Perhaps you didn't cook dinner, but you did heat up some leftovers for the kids. Maybe you arrived to find them already tucked in. You just read them a story, turned the lights off, and watched TV until the car turned in the driveway. Or perhaps, you knew if anything serious came up, you'd call. And people, that's all you really had to do. So starting in the mid-20th century, the young sitter became an emblem of American girlhood, both a classic coming-of-age character and the locus of anxieties for girls growing autonomy. How old should they be? How mature? Blah, blah, blah. That even goes through the history of this in pop culture. So in the 60s, in pop culture, the babysitter was portrayed as a temptress. Did you know that?
Oh.
I've heard it, yeah.
Like tempting dad. What? The 70s, she was just in horror movies.
Yeah.
The bad guy came over when there was a babysitter.
That's right.
Yeah.
In the 80s, she became like kind of a hero because of the series, Babysitter's Club. Yeah. And it was like a whole PR thing. There was even a movie in the 80s, like Babysitter or something.
Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
There was another one where wasn't it like she had a big adventure? Adventures in Babysitting. That's why they called it that. Yep.
They had a big adventure.
And then, I don't know if you realize this, in the Babysitter's Club, did you know the main characters were 12 or 13? But even Mallory, she was one of the club's charges. She started babysitting at 11. You made a face when I said 12 or 13.
Yeah, it just feels young to me now.
What about 11-year-old Mallory? Could she come and watch Trey?
She could maybe be like, what are they called? Like a mother's helper, where like I'm around, like doing stuff around the house, but she's taking care of them. Maybe.
I think I was babysitting about 13 or 14. Not frequently, but we had some friends down the street that their boys were just slightly younger than my brothers, and I would watch them sometimes.
Yeah, well, apparently now it gets to today and the whole thing is gone. Like no one's really doing this anymore. Now, we didn't have to very often because of our kids' ages. When you have 3 kids, ages 2, 1, and newborn, essentially, you don't go anywhere until they're older. But now that we've got the older kids, like we leave fairly regularly without, hiring a sitter. Plus, it was expensive because now they're charging. I'll be $100 per child per hour. Thanks. No, thank you.
Yeah, you're telling me.
So why is babysitting dead, according to research? Well, it's a couple of reasons. Number one, they say Americans tend to be less acquainted with their neighbors. And it used to be like the neighbor down the street, teenage girl down the street.
Right.
Now we don't know our neighbors at all. Fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's going to get personal up in here. And the next reason, intensive parenting has become a child-rearing ideal across classes. Grown-ups have begun to see kids as fragile and in need of constant oversight. Tweens or younger teens might not seem like comforting sources of protection. They may seem like children in need of watching themselves. So the style of parenting popular today, children until, I don't know, depending on the parent, 18 are fragile. You must watch them. And then there's also parents are concerned about financial security, as in like, why would you pay someone to have your kids just sit around and do nothing and watch TV when you could instead be paying for them to take piano lessons and being tutored to be better and smarter so they can make more money someday? And teens, by the way, also, to flip the tables a bit, babysitting's dead, they say, because teens are more likely to be preoccupied doing Model UN and SAT prep. Sure. They're not, and all their clubs and all their things, because they're so busy, they're not bored looking for work and money.
Right. The responsible ones who you would want watching your kid are in sports and clubs and everything else.
And the way that this intense parenting is working as well, I mean, who would want babysitting on their resume? That's not going to help you. You should get an unpaid internship somewhere and get all the stuff. So that's the theory. I wonder if we know a mom of young children. I wonder how she feels about all that. We'll talk to Lauren and you about it if you want. 440-546-2255.
India Partners works to stop human trafficking, and a partnership in that work is Moody Radio. When you help rescue a girl from the red light districts of Mumbai, India, you're standing up for injustice and living out Psalm 83. It says, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Now keep that in mind as you hear what happened to Pallavi, who was trafficked and sold at 14 years old.
She took me to a place, I don't know where, and there were a lot of men, and there is no way out.
For 8 years, sometimes as often as 15 times a day, Pallavi was abused.
Morning they used to come, afternoon they used to come, like a commodity.
So let's go back to Psalm 83. Defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Learn how you can be part of saving, maybe even changing, a young girl's life today. Go to indiapartners.org/Moody. That's indiapartners.org/Moody.
Hey everyone, Lisa Anderson here. I am the host of The Boundless Show with some exciting news for you. Your favorite program, The Boundless Show, is moving to a brand new time slot. So say goodbye to Saturday mornings and hello to Saturday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Join us for all kinds of insightful discussions, inspirational stories, and practical advice to help you navigate young adulthood and the single life. Tune in to Moody Radio Cleveland every Saturday at 3:30 p.m.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
At least my little brother was able to make a career out of talking non-stop.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
718, that brother and I were watched regularly by babysitters, and we did a whole lot of nothing with them. I don't even know if we played games. We just watch TV, hang out, play with toys.
Yep.
Get pizza.
Pizza, yeah.
Those were the days.
And sometimes they would cook something, but it would be like macaroni and cheese, something very simple.
A TV dinner.
You
sure.
Say that like macaroni and cheese is not absolutely delicious.
Yeah. Rude.
And it's all what you're used to, right? Like my kids, for whatever reason, will only eat the Aldi brand because that's what they were used to. I bought them Kraft once, thinking I'm doing them a favor, and they didn't eat it. They're like, gross, Dad. I'm like, gross. It's just different.
Count yourself lucky. Aldi brand's like 50 cents a box.
Is that good? Yeah.
Yes, that's very
Compared
good.
to Kraft.
I'm
or
into
like
that.
Annie's or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Annie's is expensive.
Never heard of Annie's. So anyway, The Atlantic says that babysitting is dead for a lot of reasons, both parenting and teens. But I think ultimately, if you trace the whole thing, it's a change in parenting. Intensive parenting is the new child rearing. Kids are fragile. You got to watch them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to, and you really, since kids are fragile, teens are fragile and untrustworthy. Therefore, they are not capable of watching your child.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
No, I don't think they're incapable.
Would you hire a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old to watch your boys?
Probably not with a 5-month-old. I would want Ellis to be a little bit older, but then yes.
So why? Why would you do that?
Why would I do what?
Allow someone that young to watch your kid, because that's countercultural now. I mean, because you're a little bit into intense parenting, I'd imagine, aren't you?
I don't know. I don't really know what you mean by intense parenting.
Well, compare it to when Ron was a kid.
Compared to latchkey kids?
Get out of here and don't come back until the streetlights turn on.
Drink your fill out of the hose connected to the outside of the house.
Yeah, don't come inside, as in leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I mean, I'm not saying that's better, but anything compared to that is intense. Anything that involves you and the kid and staying inside and playing together.
And you've got a reason for some intensity with allergies and other issues like that.
Yes. With anyone that watches our son, I put it all on the counter. Here's all the things he can eat. Do not give him anything else. And that's honestly mostly for them, to make them feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to give him anything that I'm laying it out for you so you don't have to worry.
But we even had my girls in particular do babysitting courses where you learn basics of like first aid and CPR and stuff.
I did that.
Back in the day, no one did that. That's what 911's for.
I don't know if that's actually true. I think a lot of people did babysitting courses.
Where they learned what? CPR? I don't think so.
CPR is just good for everyone to know, I feel like.
Yeah, and the Heimlich.
Anybody here know it?
I do.
Okay, good, because I don't.
I know it for babies.
Oh, yeah, you got to know that. But you follow me? Like, when I was a kid, like there was no checking to see if you had specialized training. It was, are you a human? Are you trustworthy generally? And are you of particular age?
Mm-hmm.
Come watch my kid, we're leaving.
But a lot of times you got reference from other parents.
Oh, sure.
And so there was some vetting in that regard. There was not, like you say, the Red Cross back in when I had babysitters. I don't think any of them had the Red Cross training that my daughter went through. But
your daughter went through that as well?
Yeah, she did.
So are we okay? I mean, are you bothered by the fact that babysitting seems to be dying?
I'm bothered that it costs $25. That's what I'm bothered by.
That's probably the biggest reason it's dying.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like the actual going rate per hour?
Yes. Yes.
Ew. I wonder why that is.
I don't know.
Because they can get $20 an hour at McDonald's or a lot of retail places nowadays. So, why take on that responsibility? And it's only a short term, one night a week for that family, a couple of hours. You make more money at another job.
And it's better resume builder, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
People would rather you see you've worked in like a customer service or like food industry job than being a babysitter. So
is all this good for kids? That babysitting's gone? I mean, forget about little kids that are being watched. Think about the tween and the teen girl in particular. We don't need to go down the road, I don't think, about why girls babysit more than boys do, because I think we can all figure that one out.
Yeah.
Is this a bad thing?
Is it bad that it's dying, that the art of babysitting is dying?
Yeah, and a culture that supported it. A culture where, I mean, obviously teens, when that was a big thing, were not as concerned about resume building. They were just hanging out with their friends, talking on the phone, and making a couple extra bucks babysitting. I
think it's maybe bad for the family who doesn't live near family, like me. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's bad for the tweens that they don't get a chance at babysitting. If they don't want to, that's okay. That's their own choice if they don't want to do that. I had friends who didn't because they didn't want to. But I do think it's hard for, like the family that doesn't live near their parents, near grandparents. And so they don't have people to watch their kids.
I do recall it being hard for my girls to find people that were interested in letting them babysit. People just were not hiring babysitters.
Oh, yeah, no, even when I was a teen, this concept was well on its way out. And like my parents mostly hired college kids. I don't think they'd ever dream of hiring someone under 18, which, if you don't want to babysit, again, fine. But I do think girls that are interested in that are losing out on some sort of independence and an opportunity to further their people skills and mature.
So why do you think it's dying? And it has been since you were a kid.
I think, we were talking about in the article, they expect just babysitter on a Friday night to have all these qualifications and be able to do all these brain building activities with their children. I used to full-time work with children with like legit special needs like Down syndrome and autism and things like that. I did not have those certifications. I was CPR certified and that was about it. And you're expecting just your toddler on a Tuesday night or whatever to get all this stuff. You just need someone who can watch them and is competent.
Yeah, in fact, the article says many families don't want their kids wasting time sitting in front of a TV or even just playing. They want them learning, say, math or piano or another language. And if kids are spending time in scheduled activities, blah, blah, blah. So they actually want sitters that are like advertising, I can help your kids learn piano while you're gone.
I cannot identify with those parents.
That's what intense parenting would be. And you obviously don't fit into that category, Lauren, because you're making a face at that.
No, we have a daily babysitter that's with our kids for 3 hours while I'm here and my husband starts work. And I don't even ask her to do like brain development activities with our almost 6 months old.
Why not? Don't you want him to get ahead in life?
I'll do that. I'll do that when I'm home with him. I just need somebody to make sure he's fed and watered and changed.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the ways that the world educates their kids and trains up their kids, I forget the country, and I think it's in Scandinavia. Maybe it's Denmark. I forget which one. Where the school model is no homework for elementary school kids and more recess.
Like, because that's how their brains are working.
Yeah, let them play, free play, a lot.
They learn through play, yeah.
And what we do is we're actually putting our kids in school outside of school.
Yeah.
And giving them homework and not allowing them to free play.
Yeah, we've talked with Dr. Gersovich about the damage some of these kids are having because their parents don't give them enough unstructured time. They're having anxiety, and I think that we are just too focused on making sure our kids are prepared for the future that we've completely squandered their childhood.
Yeah, and there's part of me that this is one of the reasons I'm grateful we live in rural America because, I don't know, people are less wound up tight about there might be a murderer living next door, My boys will be like, hey, can we go see our friends across the highway or down the street? And be like, yeah, see ya. Bye. And they're, when they started doing that, they were like 8 and 10. So if I was in a certain suburb in Northeast Ohio, somebody called the police if they saw my 8-year-old by himself.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment, Lauren? I mean, we're just wound up too tight, worried about everything, kidnappers everywhere.
Yeah, I think so. And someone said it sounds like people want a babysitter to do more for their kids than they do for themselves. And we talked about this briefly when we brought up this article whenever that was, as a team. Like, most parents aren't CPR certified or first aid certified, but you want your babysitter who's going to be with them for 2 hours to be? It's weird.
Yeah, and Sarah and I even were wondering aloud just the other night, like, do we do enough of like things with our kids? I mean, when you got 5, there's a lot of zone being played, not man-to-man here.
Right.
And so we're available, but it's not like, all right, children, let's sit down, and now we're going to have story time, and then we're going to have craft time, and then we're going to go outside, and we're all going to play baseball together. We have a whole team. Here we go. Let's play baseball. You're shortstop. We don't do that. We're available, but they have a lot of free time. And we wonder aloud if we're doing it right. We're leaning more towards Ron's upbringing. And like, I got on my bike and I rode all over the place, places I wasn't even supposed to go.
Oh yeah,
all the time, and I'm fine. So what's the balance, Lauren? Have you thought about that for when your boys get older?
I mean, right now I don't even like sit down and play with them. Well, the one who can play. I don't sit down and like play constantly.
Isn't that the pressure you get?
Bored. Yeah, it is. But it's good for him to be bored, to be creative.
Right.
To learn how to fill his time and find things he likes to do.
And yet many of your peers, at least if you're looking on social media, right, are like, they would think you're slacking off.
Probably.
So how have you resisted that temptation? You're just independent?
I guess. And I prefer to have him join me in other things, like in doing stuff around the house. Learn how to clean, learn how to put away dishes.
That's fun for a kid.
Yeah, they like doing that stuff.
Yeah, if you wait too long, then they suddenly don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So should we lament the fact that babysitting is dying in some respects? I'm not saying we're longing for the good old days because the Bible says we're not supposed to do that. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. Pretty on the nose. I'm not saying we need to send kids out till the streetlights turn back on. But I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing that a culture that allows such free time that young women want to babysit and parents go out and kids can do nothing. There's value in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's okay for your kids to be, to meet other people and to learn that there are other people other than their parents that are safe people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for the babysitters, there's so much growth and development when you're in charge. Okay, It's only a couple of hours, but you're in charge of these little lives, and you've got to make the decisions. And sometimes, well, probably most of the time, the kids want to do things that they're not supposed to. And you got to realize when they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes and all that. So it's a great introduction to parenting and to actual leadership within a group, a community, a business, whatever.
And maybe that's the value that church community can bring. In a healthy, thriving church community, there should be able to be all these kinds of things, because I get worried about marriage as well. If intense parenting has become to the point that babysitting is dead, that means parents probably aren't going out very often, which means marriages are focused on kids, which means marriages will fall apart in a couple of decades. So something to consider. And if you start babysitting, by the way, if the phone keeps ringing, like randomly, don't answer it. And if you get scared, don't run upstairs.
Right.
Everybody ran upstairs in the movies. Why are the babysitters always running upstairs?
Yeah, then you're getting further into the house that you have to get out of when it gets scary.
Yeah. All right, 7:31, time for a quick break. When we come back, our friend Dan Colantone from the Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation has brought a friend in studio to chat a bit about, making a better city as we connect together as Christian businesses and ministries.
It makes things unpleasant when people can't get along. But Dr. Tony Evans says it's more than just annoying, it's destroying. He'll talk to us about what's really at stake as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
Forget spiritual authority where there is disunity. The reason why the enemy creates disunity is not just so that folk won't get along. No. He's doing it for a bigger purpose. He knows that lack of agreement will keep God from responding. That's why the Bible says in 1 Peter 3:7, when husbands and wives are in disagreement, tell the husband don't pray because God will not listen. But he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 5, when the husband and wife are in agreement, tell them to pray because now they can hear from heaven. The reason why the husband and the wife are fighting is not just over the issue, it's because what Satan does is he amplifies the issue. That's why you started fighting over bacon and eggs, and now you're discussing getting a divorce. What's that got to do with bacon and eggs? Well, he has amplified that issue so that there is no prayers being heard, and therefore no binding and loosing occurring, no authority occurring. He keeps races divided. Politicians divided, political schemes divided, so that while everybody having a prayer meeting, God's not answering anybody's prayer because they're not in agreement.
Learn more about how to keep the enemy from short-circuiting your prayer life. Check out Tony's CD series, Igniting Kingdom Prayer, available online at tonyevans.org. Then join us next time for 2 Minutes with Tony.
From time to time, you will hear the mention of a business or ministry here on Moody Radio Cleveland. These businesses have partnered with WCRF to underwrite some of the costs associated with our broadcasting, which helps us to do more and do it better. If you would be interested in knowing more about underwriting possibilities, contact our station manager, Josh Villa, at 440-526-1111. That's 440-526-1111. Josh would love to hear from you.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland. 6 to 9 a.m. Weekdays on 3.3.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.38 WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Don't forget that 2 weeks from yesterday is the Eclipse, I don't know how you could forget. Everyone's talking about it finally. We've been talking about it a lot longer, and we have a very special event we're partnering with Hope Church in Brunswick for Glory in the Skies. We'll broadcast live from that church in the morning.
Yeah.
Then the team's going to hang out at Ron's house. You can't, but we can.
Whoop, whoop.
Never been there. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Make sure to tidy up that pile of Wi-Fi routers, Ron. I'm anxious to see it.
Well, yeah, maybe I'll just throw a blanket over it and we'll just pretend it's not there.
And then we're going to do a live simulcast of the Eclipse as a team from the church as well. So you can tune in and be a part of it as we point the whole thing towards Jesus. For more information, text MOON to 440-546-2255. MOON to 440-546-2255. All right, in studio with us now, we've got our friend Dan Colantone. He's president of the Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
And you brought another friend with you today.
I did, yes.
His name is Tom Hare. He's executive director of HarvestNet.
Yes. Yes, so thank you very much, Brian. We appreciate being on the show. And as you know, the Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation is an organization that kind of convenes and connects with different partners around the city. And it's a faith-based organization. We work in areas, initiatives. We work on building capacity of others. We work with ministries and churches and organizations like Tom's. And his organization has really been around for a long time and has done great work for Cleveland.
Well, Tom, welcome to the program. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Brian.
So give us kind of the snapshot of HarvestNet. What are you doing as a ministry in our community?
Well, so like Dan said, we've been around for a good while. Actually, 35 years ago, we started an organization. I was pastoring at that time.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah. We came up here to church plant in Cleveland Heights. And in 1988, we started a ministry with a number of other pastors called the Christian Leadership Alliance. And we just prayed together for 10 years. And that
was the primary focus of your work together was prayer.
Well, yeah, right.
Wonderful.
Right. We had been captured by a vision. Actually, the book of Jonah talks about a transformed city, right? Everybody knows the big fish. But but this was about a transformed city and a great God that had compassion and had the capacity to transform a whole city. And it kind of brought about a paradigm shift for me and some others. And we thought, well, if God did that then, why wouldn't we be praying and believing for that now? I mean, this was before the cross, before the Holy Spirit, before the blood of Jesus. So if he did that once, then we should be praying for that to happen again. And so that's what we started doing. And as a result of that, relationships got built across denominational lines, across color lines, and so forth. And we did that for 10 years on a couple times a month.
You just get together as leaders in the community and pray.
Yep. Yeah.
Was it primarily pastors, or did you also?
Yeah,
have
no,
business leaders?
it was all pastors.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then after about 10 years, we felt like we were getting direction to now do something together, and our understanding of what the Lord was doing with us was also growing at that time, and our concept of the citywide church, for lack of a better term, began to kind of develop for us. And theologically, we came to see that. Oh, in the Bible, it talks about the church of Corinth or the church at Ephesus or the church at Thyatira or wherever. It speaks about the church of the city, actually more than it speaks about what we would call little C churches, congregations. I mean, you have that in the Bible, like greet the churches in the house of Aquila and Priscilla, for example. You know, and when you find those kind of references, which there are 3 or 4 in the epistles, it identifies a leader with a body of people. Kind of like we do today, like we think, oh, Jonathan Schaefer at Grace Church or whatever. But when it talks about the citywide church, it never names an individual, you know, and it's kind of like a picture of how God sees the church. And we just felt like there was something in that, and that that also this was the prayer of Jesus, because John 17 was another passage that opened up to us afresh. And, you know, in John 17, as part of his prayer, he says, Father, make them one, as we are one, so that the world may know that you have sent me and that you have loved them as you have loved me. And so we saw in that there is a self-authenticating oneness or unity that Jesus was praying for. And the result is, in effect, it's tied to the Great Commission, right? The watching world sees something and they come to believe and they come to know that Jesus is the real deal and that God's love for them is real. And so that opened up to us, and we kind of reverse engineered it, you might say, in the sense that, well, if the world can see it, what are they seeing? They apparently aren't seeing that right now, with,
Right.
in terms of the opinion of the Word about the church. But so as we then looked into the Scriptures, like, well, what's in the Scriptures that maybe they could see? And you see the Scriptures talking about the citywide church. And so we began to lean into that and try to understand that and grow in that and begin doing things together. And so that's how we got going.
Now, I'm blown away that you all focused on prayer for a decade without anything else. Can you speak to that? Because a lot of people get antsy after 6 months, right, and start going, all right, now let's do this, do that, form this, form that.
Yeah.
How did you all stay so dedicated to exclusively prayer for so long?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think it was a sovereign work of the Lord that just kind of, drilled that into us. And we came to see, for example, in Acts 6:4, that whole story when they're grappling about what to do about the Grecian widows and all of that. And they end up solving that. But as they speak to it, they say, we should give ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word. We would consider that, an apostolic leadership mandate, okay? So in other words, the leaders ought to be leading from the front rather than the rear in this issue of prayer. Of course, most pastoral leaders do a good job of administering the word, right? And they're really committed to that. And of course, I was a pastor for 25 years, so I can speak to these things, from the inside, not just the armchair. And of course, they're generally engaged. You're always praying about what are you going to preach about, and what is God putting in your heart, and what is the Scripture saying. But this seemed like a different kind of prayer focus that needed to be there, and so we just got committed to that, and it began to grow, and like I said, build relationships. And then when the Christian Leadership Alliance kind of morphed into HarvestNet. It's the same 501c3. We just kind of did a name change and a focus change, but we continued to keep prayer as a foundational piece. And we actually, in the ministry now, we have several avenues of prayer. And we continue with the pastor's prayer as one core piece of that. We rotate around to a different church each month. Mm-hmm. And the point of that, it's kind of threefold. We go from like 10:30 to 12 noon on the last Friday of a month. And we'll pray for that host church, and we get the pastor there and any staff that he has. And we have other pastors from around the city that come, and we just pray for God's blessing on that church. So instead of praying for our own church, we're praying for that church.
I love that.
And then we also spend a little time praying for one another. Most pastors are praying for everybody else. Nobody's really praying for them. And this is colleagues gathering around them, praying, and praying for one another. And then we devote the third part of that prayer gathering to praying for spiritual transformation of the city, for revival, as it were.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's 7:47, time for a quick break. This is Mornings with Brian on WCRF. Our guests are Dan Colantone, a good friend of the show from the Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation. And today we're having a chat with Tom Hare. He's Executive Director of HarvestNet.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is MediShare. And maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for health care can save many families up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. See what you can save. This is a very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
I'm a song hero
for King and Country. Are you available the weekend of April 19th? Great, because we're thinking we'd like to send you to Nashville to meet them. Moody Radio will send you and a friend to a 3-day event at the Country Music Hall of Fame, hosted by Joel and Luke Smallbone. Pre-release movie screening of Unsung Hero, private listening party, podcast recording, and more. Enter to win at moodyradio.org/unsung. No purchase necessary. Contest ends March 31st at midnight. moodyradio.org/unsung.
It's a no negativity zone on Moody Radio Cleveland and Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.752 WCRF Mornings with Brian. In studio with us, Dan Colantone, president of the Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation. And he brought with him today Tom Hare, the executive director for HarvestNet, which I love was born out of essentially a prayer ministry for pastors. Spent a decade together. You were church planting in Cleveland Heights.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved before the break how you highlighted a portion of Acts that when you read a passage, it kind of awakens something new each time you look at it, right?
Right.
You were talking about the Grecian widows and how they were complaining about being cared for. I love the response from the church leadership then, right? They said, listen, this needs to be cared for, but we need to be able to go over here and lead and pray.
Right.
I'd forgotten about the prayer part. They're like, doing this is distracting us from prayer. And so they appointed people to take care of the problem. But yet we do need to be dedicated exclusively in many respects to prayer. And so HarvestNet is born out of this, pastors getting together across various socioeconomic and racial boundaries to pray. And so what's God doing through HarvestNet today?
Well, so, excuse me, since those early days, what began to happen is the Lord birthed different little, we would call them projects. We refer to them as ministry modules now. But they're kind of like examples of what it might look like to work together in certain areas. And so we have seen our primary role to be kind of a voice, as it were, of this notion of this, even the theology of the citywide church. And the fact that it is the prayer of Jesus, I say, it's the real Lord's Prayer. It's what he actually prayed.
Right. In the garden, you're talking about.
In the garden, yeah, exactly. I mean, the last prayer he prayed before the cross, and an unanswered prayer, which we think he's still praying, because the Bible says he ever lives to make intercession. So I think he's still praying this prayer, and so what we're doing is entering into agreement with him in that. And then out of that have been birthed a number of different little things. And each of them is focused on this idea of collaboration. So, for example, one of the ministry modules that's developed over the years, and I just want to say this too, these are things that kind of like, for lack of a better word, God plopped in our lap. It's not like we sat around beginning of a planning of a year and said, well, what new things should we do this year?
Right.
It just didn't happen that way. And so this came out, I won't give you all the background, but a program called the All School Assembly Program, ASAP, although it's now morphing to be the youth education focus. And so at that table, we have like the head of Youth for Christ, we have FCA person, Young Life, Gail Reese, who I know has been on here.
We love Gail.
With their Ministry of Reconciliation. We have Finn Larson with Christian Educators. And we have School Ministries of Ohio, which is kind of a latest project that we're doing collaboratively and also linking together with NULF and others, which is about religious release time program. Jenny is a lawyer. She wrote the policy for the state of Ohio, and we're launching that like this very moment. And we have churches that are, gathering together to get information, and it allows students to be released during school time to go to a church building and learn about Jesus. You can pray, you can talk about the Lord, and so forth. And so at this table are all these citywide ministries already that could be considered silos, but we're also focused on what we would call the youth ministry in the education space. Because you have churches that have youth ministries too. But these are all these kind of broader organizations that recognize the harvest field of the youth, the critical need, and we're kind of coming together and saying, how can we cooperate, collaborate, do things together, think together, pray together. And one of the projects out of that is the All School Assembly programs, where we'll go into a school, do a daytime assembly with a Christian speaker. Nothing new about assemblies, but then we have what we call a comeback party that night at the school, and the churches in the area gather together. They provide the prayer counselors, and there's a gospel invitation given at that time. And we've seen hundreds and hundreds of kids come to the Lord. But part of the goal is to bring the churches together, to do this thing together with the ministries together, because it takes a citywide church to reap a citywide harvest. It takes a citywide church to win a citywide war. And we're in spiritual warfare too,
Well, and that's, I think, clearly a passion you all have and a connecting point with Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation.
Right.
And we talk about this a lot in the show as well. I think folks overlook that prayer in the garden. Jesus, in his farewell discourse throughout his final hours, multiple times, love one another, love one another, love one another, praying for unity. And we forget about this. And in fact, the church in America today is so divided.
Right.
And you all, I think, are modeling that in a larger sense. But hopefully it trickles down, right, to the individual Christian.
Yeah.
To see that the great good we can do for the gospel when we're united.
Right? Yeah, no question about it. It is really unity and community, and it is the collaboration model of consistency across the city. And Cleveland's a good-sized city, so you got the east side, the west side, you got the suburbs, you got the region. And so when you've got the organizations, as Tom so well articulated, now you've got the ministries, you've got the churches, now the marketplace. Get outside of the walls of your own companies, and they encourage companies and businesses, really encourage their employees to be out in service, and they want to. They want to know where they can serve with their families.
And it's beautiful to see that, because we need that more and more today. As I know, there are church communities that are almost isolationist, and they're more concerned about things of America than they are concerned about things of the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not and really, it's our own communities we got to be concerned about. Where we have children who need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they have some real needs that need to be met. I know Gail Reese does that with.
She does, right?
And you all partner with her, I'm sure. So thank you for modeling that for our communities, what it looks like in a larger corporate sense for there to be one church in our community here in Northeast Ohio.
Right.
Again, Tom Hare has been with us, Executive Director for HarvestNet. If folks want to learn more about what you're doing, maybe there's pastors who want to join you in this effort.
I would hope
pray.
so. Yes, yes.
How can they learn more about what you're doing?
Well, probably the easiest thing is to go to our website, which is HarvestNet. That's like one word, HarvestNet Ministries, plural.com, HarvestNetMinistries.com. And there they can see some of the different aspects of what we're doing. You know, they may want to relate to the school assembly and the youth outreach, or especially the release program. If their church is near a school, this is like a no-brainer. I mean, I'm putting my pastor's hat on for that.
Yeah, it should be a no,
yeah.
right.
So some like to relate to the Jew. We have an outreach to the Jewish community, as well as then the pastors' gatherings, which, like I say, are monthly and all of that. And they can get information at HarvestNetMinistries.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom. And, of course, Dan Colantone from the Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation. You all have events on a regular basis. What's up next for somebody who might even be in business and follows Jesus, wants to join you?
Yes, we're, as you know, Brian, we have the initiatives of housing and education and health, and we had the prayer Cleveland Connect model this past month, and it's coming up in April and May. We're planning now. We have one scheduled for May that will be around foster care. And the partners coming together around foster care in all the areas of service around the city. And
Wonderful.
That's on May 15th.
And how can folks get more information about that and your work?
You can find us on our website, www.neolf.org.
Great. neolf.org, Northeast Ohio Leadership Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you both for your time and for what you're doing for the kingdom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's 8 o'clock. We're going to get to Ron's news in today's More Ron Moment. And then after that, new research indicates Americans are doing something pretty new when it comes to work. We're going to discuss what that is as a team and analyze it together in just a minute.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Former President Trump's hush money criminal case is moving forward with no delay. It's 8:01. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The case is related to alleged hush money payments to an adult film star. The judge rejected Mr. Trump's request for an additional delay and said jury selection will begin April 15th. Euclid police are searching for two suspects who robbed a mail carrier at gunpoint. The mail carrier was not injured, thankfully. Police believe the suspects are juveniles, but no further identifying information has been released at this time. And MGM Resorts International is reportedly exploring the sale of its gambling operations at Northfield Park. According to a report from Bloomberg, the report says the talks are only preliminary and may not result in any action. Sports and weather in just a moment.
Pursue your passion of shepherding, teaching, and ministry leadership with a Master of Divinity from Moody Theological Seminary. Study systematic theology, pastoral practices, learn to analyze Scripture through the lens of the original Hebrew and Greek texts. Take classes when and how it's most convenient for you, on campus in Chicago or Plymouth, Michigan, or online wherever you are. Get started today at moody.edu/mdiv, moody.edu/mdiv.
In sports, the Cavaliers blew out the Hornets 115-92. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Showers, windy, and cooler today with our highs in the mid-50s. At last check, rain in Cleveland, 45 degrees. Akron and Canton, heavy rain, 42 degrees. And in Youngstown, light rain and 47 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
As we deal with an economy that continues to deteriorate, many are looking for an extra source of income. Some of the obvious are driving for Uber, Lyft, or DoorDash, but if you're looking for other options more to your liking, try flexjobs.com or upwork.com to see the multitude of gigs that just might be right for you. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:04. With Moody Radio News, I'm
Ronald Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio. It's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
808 WCRF, Mornings with Brian. And Americans are changing their habits in a certain way when it ties to where they live. I want to talk a little bit about this as a team before we dig into the research here. Now, Ron, you were born and raised in Medina, right?
True fact.
And you're still there.
Yep.
Have you guys ever lived outside? Well, you lived in Guam.
Right.
But besides that, have you ever lived outside of Medina?
No.
So you're not going to qualify in this as much, this discussion.
Oh, good. I'll just turn my mic off
No,
now.
don't do that. Don't do that. Be part of it. But I mean, Sarah and I moved a lot, and how we decide where we live has changed over the years for certain. Daria's moved and is going to move soon, I would imagine, in the next year or two, hopefully.
Yeah,
Is your
God
plan.
willing.
And you all just moved, Lauren.
Yes.
So how did you decide where to live as it relates to where you work? Because we're here in Brecksville.
Mm-hmm.
Did it matter in any sense?
Yeah, we put like a limit on how far I wanted to travel to work.
What was that limit?
30 minutes.
How did you pick that?
I don't really want to spend more than an hour in the car a day traveling.
Like total?
Yeah.
Obviously.
That's just my preference, I guess.
Was there any part of you that said, wow, if I just expand to 35 minutes, I might be able to get a different place that I like better?
Yeah, I mean, I was flexible with that.
But what was your like absolutely not time? 'Cause it's
I don't think
time
I
now.
really had that. I just said I would like to be about 30 minutes away.
Because, I mean, you and I have lived in Chicago before.
Yes.
Not together, obviously.
Yes.
I made that sound funny. But I had colleagues at Moody Bible Institute that commuted an hour and a half one way to work.
Those people were crazy to me.
I don't know how they
Crazy
did
to
it.
me. Yeah, they'd live like far into Indiana.
Yeah.
Like not just over the border, which it may be 30, 25 minutes. No. Like far into Indiana.
We have a virtual friend who lived in Valparaiso, Indiana, and commuted to Chicago every day. If you want to go look it up, it's like an hour and a half one
Did
way.
you say a virtual friend?
What did I say?
You did say virtual friend.
Why did I say that?
You tell us.
Well, I mean, if they're on the
You
internet.
mean mutual friend?
Mutual friend.
Yes. Yeah.
And virtual, depending on the day. That lived in Valparaiso. That was weird. Thanks for catching
Yeah.
that.
Or like Crown Point or something like that. That's far.
Yeah.
I one time was driving to Kentucky and drove through Crown Point, and I was like, wait, that's where these people live?
Oh, right. Like I'll get, when I'm driving to Chicago occasionally, you get to Valparaiso and I go, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm nowhere near the city.
Yeah.
But here it's not as normal. I mean, here, a lot of people, 20 minutes for whatever reason is the cap. Culturally, that's what I discovered when I got here. It's like, if it's more than 20 minutes, you're not going.
Yeah.
Yes, my in-laws live in New Jersey, and they thought my mother-in-law was crazy for driving 20 minutes to get her nails done.
Oh, wow.
So some parts of the country, they refuse to drive anywhere.
So now, how did you pick, and how will you pick where you live in relationship to where you work?
So our goal was less than 30 minutes. I'm willing, though I won't be happy with it, to go up to 45. I have driven an hour to work before. My dad did it for a number of years, so I think my experience on what a far commute is slightly different. But because of gas being as expensive as it was, I would like to keep it under 30.
What would convince you to do 45?
We're looking for a place with a little bit of property, but that's really hard to find too close to the city. So if we found like a place we just loved, because my husband would like to do a little bit of homesteading at some point in the future. So if we found that, I'd be willing to drive.
He can come over to my place to do a bunch of work.
He will take you up on
He
that.
probably would, wouldn't he?
He really would.
He'll come be your groundskeeper.
He
You
planted
need to pay him.
Groundskeeper Jimmy.
No, he started planting his garden yesterday, and he's very excited to be able to share some of the fruit of the harvest with everybody.
Can't wait. I can't wait. No,
My dad traveled from the suburbs of Chicago into the city for work for, oh my gosh, almost 20 years.
well, and for a city like Chicago, or you're talking about New Jersey, New York, Los Angeles, an hour's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Pretty average, I would imagine.
You could be
depends.
traveling an hour from within the city to your job, still within the city.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it took us an hour and a half to go 3 miles when we visited New York in November.
Yep.
But like southern New Jersey, which is where my in-laws are from, like, oh, you don't travel more than 5 miles from your house, or, pack a suitcase.
How long is your commute, Ron, from Medina?
It's about a half hour.
Have you ever thought about moving closer? Like you just can't stand that half hour, or you're fine?
Yeah, I would not leave Medina.
You love Medina.
I do, and I just, it's perfect for me. My wife's family is all around there, and our daughter is there. My brother and his wife are there, so there's a lot of contact. And when you need help with something, there's somebody you can call.
Yeah.
There's, grandkids coming over, which means a lot.
And yeah, see, I've had to accept already that the culture Sarah and I created with our family, in that her and I have moved a lot within cities and between states. We lived in 3 different states in the last 20 years. I have to presume my kids are going to do the same thing. Like, the idea of living near my grandkids is probably not going to be a thing. But all that to say, looking at Cleveland.com recently, what they said is Americans are living further and further away from their workplaces. Here's the information, and then we'll take a break and come back and chat about it. Freed perhaps from the daily jaunt to the office, the average American worker now lives almost 3 times further from their job than they did before the pandemic. Workers' average distance to their employer increased from 10 miles in 2019. So absorb that. 10 miles was the average distance in 2019. 2023, average distance, 27 miles. It's a big jump.
Yeah.
In just a couple of years, went from 10 as the average to 27. And that was according to new research done where they actually, you can use records and like employee records to find out where do you work and where do you live. It's a pretty easy calculation. The data shows the distance between workers and their employers is most pronounced among people who started in their jobs after the pandemic hit. Workers hired in March 2020 or later lived 35 miles from their employer on average, not 27, 35 in December 2023 on average. That's more than twice the distance of people who were hired in March 2020. While the payroll data doesn't explicitly show that people living furthest from their employer are taking advantage of hybrid or remote work arrangements, the results line up with years of research showing the dramatic impact the pandemic had on where work is performed. Before the pandemic, just about 7% of paid workdays were performed at home. 7% of paid workdays were performed at home. In February, it was 28% of work days were performed at home. That's wild, that change. 7% to 28% in just a couple of years. A lot of people working hybrid. Although I'm seeing that begin to change pretty dramatically. Like for Sarah's work, they decided in her company, well, no more hybrid, sorry. Everybody's driving in now. I went a little nutty. People weren't happy about that. My wife loves it, by the way, especially for bosses listening. It's her favorite. There's much more to talk about in this. I mean, how do we think through this in terms of what's best for family? Because at the end of the day, family is our priority. How much can we sacrifice in commute time? 440-546-2255.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
Making assumptions is rarely a good idea. That's true when it comes to thinking healthcare costs can't be affordable. Christian Healthcare Ministries has been helping believers meet their healthcare needs for over 40 years. It's not insurance, it's a ministry. Visiting chministries.org/Moody eliminates assumptions and shows how this unique model has worked to meet the healthcare needs of hundreds of thousands of Christians. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
India Partners works to stop human trafficking, and a partnership in that work is Moody Radio. When you help rescue a girl from the red light districts of Mumbai, India, you're standing up for injustice and living out Psalm 83. It says, "Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed." Now keep that in mind as you hear what happened to Pallavi, who was trafficked and sold at 14 years old.
She took me to a place, I don't know where, and there were a lot of men, and there is no way out.
For 8 years, sometimes as often as 15 times a day, Pallavi was abused.
Morning they used to come, afternoon they used to come, like a commodity.
So let's go back to Psalm 83. Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Learn how you can be part of saving, maybe even changing, a young girl's life today. Go to indiapartners.org/Moody. That's indiapartners.org/Moody.
This is why you have to protect your marriage, because people can be that bold.
He's kept the principles the same without changing to what today's economy looks like.
When you actually help someone, you see the difference that you've made in their life.
What's going on online is at least a small indication of the heart of the culture.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.823 WCRF Mornings with Brian. Glory in the Skies, a total solar eclipse event, is coming Monday, April 8th. We'll talk more about it in detail with a good friend here in just a few minutes. But if you want to join us for the eclipse, or at least the radio station, we'll have something special for you. Text MOON to 440-546-2255. MOON to 440-546-2255. Well, data indicates that Americans are living further and further away from their workplaces. It's gone up dramatically in distance since the pandemic, which isn't entirely surprising, knowing that hybrid and remote work is much more common. It went from, 7% of paid work days were performed at home before the pandemic. Now 28%. A lot of people working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to making these decisions, I mean, how do you go about as making a wise Christian decision about how far you live from your workplace? Because, I mean, you almost can't count on it being fully remote anymore unless you are in the tech industry and you live hundreds of miles already from your employer.
Mm-hmm.
But some people were like, oh, I'm not going to commute anymore. I'm going to live further away. And now they're stuck commuting back as office culture changes and such.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say.
Yeah. So how do you make that decision?
I feel like if you have a family, do you want to show up for like your kids' stuff after school? And if you are working an hour and a half away, how are you going to be able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your kid to be the one that's like, oh, my parents can't come because they're always working?
Well,
and maybe it's not even that they're always working, but they're always commuting.
Right.
Sometimes, though, right, the only affordable / more affordable area is further and further out from the city.
Yeah.
And so, like, what I experienced living in Illinois was that if you wanted to live in a super affordable area, you'd have to drive at least an hour away.
Yeah.
Or live in the city, and nobody wanted to do that on the south side. I did, but
yeah,
it's more affordable to give your family the life that you want for them.
Yes.
Is that a good idea?
I mean, I think you have to decide like what your values are as a family and like what is important to you as each individual family. It is important to me and to my husband to show up for our kids for their stuff. But that's important to me in like all areas of my life. I've been preaching this for a long time. Like you just show up for people. You go to your friend's stuff even if you don't like it. They're doing, I don't know, like slam poetry at some place. That's weird. Okay, but I'm going to show up because it's my friend's stuff. Just that philosophy is important to me. And that's how I'm going to, organize my life, is that I'm going to be able to show up for my kids' stuff.
So then how does Daria navigate that? Because her and Jimmy are thinking about moving pretty far out to get a little bit of space.
Her and Jimmy have to make that decision. I can't make that for her.
Are there universal Christian principles one must apply when deciding where to live in relationship to where you work? This was not a problem for Jesus, by the way, because people lived where they worked generally.
There's no Bible verse on this. I think each family just has to do what they think is best. Like I totally agree with Lauren. There are benefits of living closer to where you work because you might have more family time, less time in the car. On the other hand, I do think there's value in getting out of the city. I think people can be more peaceful and happier out there, but that's just me. That's my personality. So each family just has to make those decisions and weigh the pros and cons on their own.
Well, yeah, because Eddie, for example, probably feels like he's way out in the boondocks now because he grew up in Chicago. So there's way more space than he can possibly imagine in his life at this moment, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's funny, like what Daria just said is, I feel less peaceful and calm in the suburbs.
Do you really?
Because we're just city people. That's what we're used to, yeah. So it feels uncomfortable right now.
Well, and even to throw the curveball at you, here's the oddity of it. Like, the kids were excited for me to come home from work for a couple of years. Like, the window of time in which they care whether I'm home is pretty small. Now, I'm not trying to defend where I live further out. We haven't even gotten into that yet. But, like, if you're basing it solely on, I want to be able to be at all the kids' things, it's a pretty big decision to buy a house and pay it off over 30 years for a small window of time.
I'm not saying that your kids have to be excited that you're there, but you're there.
But your presence needs to be there.
Yeah. That's important to me. I'm not saying that's important to everybody.
Like, so even if they don't show it, they are excited you're there. And even if they're not excited, someday they will be.
Yes, they'll remember.
They won't notice if you are there, but they will if you're not.
I was not like, ooh, I'm obsessed with my parents. I want them everywhere I am. I drove myself to my own softball games, but when my parents were there, it meant something to me, and I still remember that.
Oh yeah, no, I have strong memory of that. I've said it before, but I have visions of my dad in a business suit at the side of a soccer field.
Yeah,
because back in the olden days when I was a kid, men wore suits to work. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that does have value. We were in the odd predicament where I wanted to live super close to work. It was a high priority for me. let's see how close we can live to work. And it's difficult when your radio station's in Brecksville, because God bless you if you live in Brecksville, but it is a high income area.
Yeah.
So we found somewhere on the other side of the tracks, right? But I was still 8 minutes away.
Yeah.
That was like, after moving from Chicago, that was like heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I was barely in the car. I had all this time I didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
But suddenly I was faced with that my kids were not thriving in the community where we were. So now what do I do?
Tough choice.
Right, because they had me more than they did before, but they weren't thriving. And so somebody had to make a sacrifice. So I decided, we've got to give ourselves a larger window. And I said 45 minutes, thinking that would be the actual max anyone would ever comprehend. And then the place that the Lord obviously guided us to was exactly like 45 minutes away, maybe a little bit longer on some commutes. And so I felt like I was doing it for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying, mm-hmm. And because here's the thing, I know, and I'm perhaps beating a dead horse here, but that runs contrary to your philosophy.
I don't think so, because your job allows you to get home early enough to be present in the afternoon for your kids.
True.
Yeah.
My hours are funny.
And you were doing what was in the best interest of your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And making a sacrifice for them.
Yes. At this time in my life, being able to get home in time to be around for stuff is at the best interest of my kids. But for you, at the time that you were moving to a different place for a different school, is what was at their best interest.
So then at the end of the day, our heart and our priority needs to be for our family. And that may be the only gauge of where we live. I mean, proximity to church matters, but let's be honest, you can find a new church.
Right.
So is that all it is? Priority of family? Is the only real biblical decider other than Lord, just guide us and make good decisions?
I wouldn't say the only one, but it's definitely a really important one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to be a good steward of your time and money.
Right. You have to be able to afford the commute and the vehicle to do it, sure.
And depending on what you do, be close enough to be a good employee. Like if there are emergencies or something like that. Like I used to live literally a mile from where I worked. And so I was one of the first lines of defense if something went wrong. It didn't have to be me, but it had to be somebody who was able to do that.
Yeah, and I hope they paid you a premium for that.
Probably
you don't
not.
have to answer that. But yeah, it's a thing where I what Sarah at least didn't want to become is this. I love my grandmother. She's with the Lord now, but she lived in the same house for like 60 years or something, and therefore she just you couldn't get her to leave. Mm-hmm. She was lonely and scared for many years, but lied that she wasn't. But we found out later she really was pretty lonely and scared because she just couldn't leave the house she was in because that was home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my neighbor's been in her house for 50 years.
Yeah, and Sarah and I didn't want that. And the Lord guiding us around the country so much, at the end of the day, we've discovered that home is wherever we are together. I'd rather hold more loosely to the place, but it costs us a lot. Like what Ron describes, that sounds great.
Yeah, it is.
So it's all relative, isn't it? Other than the few principles we discussed.
It's all relative to be by your relatives.
Sure. I tell you, it doesn't hurt to be real far away from your relatives sometimes as well.
I bet that's true.
Heard that from a friend. Just heard that from a friend. 8:32, time for a quick break. When we come back, our friend is back, David DeFelice. He is a retired communications specialist director of communications. I'm the communications specialist.
Yes.
Honorary. With the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. We're going to talk Eclipse here in just a minute.
This is FEBC Today with Ed Cannon, the president of the Far East Broadcasting Company.
We're going to hear from a listener in Japan who references in his letter that he's listening on an internet broadcast. But I just want to emphasize that in Japan, FEBC broadcasts on a very powerful AM station, which drives people to our internet broadcasts.
This listener letter is read by our broadcaster, Keiko.
Ido is a Japanese man in his 50s, with not many people in his life. After encountering internet broadcasts from FEBC Japan, he felt he had to contact the office. He said, "I have been depressed these past few years. It was a great surprise that Jesus visited me saying, I am with you. Through my experience, I think the human voice that comes through FEBC radio is very special because you are focused on the voice. The message comes to you stronger than with a picture. FEBC is powerful. I will keep listening to your program carefully.
While FEBC is powerful because of the voice of Keiko and the fact that she's been broadcasting to those people in Japan for 50 years, the real power comes in the message she delivers. Salvation through Jesus Christ and His Word, the gospel. That's what makes the program powerful.
Give thanks to God with us that FEBC is able to broadcast on AM radio and the internet to Japan. Learn more at febc.org. Again, febc.org.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Brandon Lake on WCRF, where it's 8:38. And a quick reminder for you, I don't know why you haven't registered for this yet if you haven't. The Unsung Hero Weekend with For King and Country is this huge contest we're running.
Mm-hmm.
Grand prize winner is going to get and I'm not making this up. It's going to sound like I am.
Right.
You really get all these things. You get round trip airfare for 2 to Nashville. You get 2 nights hotel in Nashville. They're not going to make you stay somewhere else. You get to attend an advanced screening of the movie Unsung Hero, attend a private concert with For King and Country, attend a podcast recording, and you get $250 in spending money. You want to register for that? I mean, why wouldn't you?
And you can do a meet and greet with them too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you get to meet them.
Yeah.
And greet them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You don't have to stand there in silence.
You don't just have to wave at them.
Good. That's with For King and Country. So would you like to win that? I think you do. Why don't you text FLY to 440? That's about 546-2255. Text FLY to 440-546-2255.
How long have you worked here?
2 hours. One of the reasons I'm bringing this up right now is because I just found out that our good friend who's in studio, David DeFelice, retired Director of Communications at NASA, Glenn Research Center. He saw it yesterday, Unsung Hero. You saw it.
I did. I got to see it last night at advanced screening. Even got the little handout proof and all that.
You were so big time.
Really good movie. So you'll have to have your our friend Sean O'Connor on to give you an official critique of it. But I can just tell you, 2 thumbs up. Real good movie. My wife enjoyed it as well. So
wonderful.
Really good. And it ties into what you're just talking about. Where do you live and commute? Because big move from Australia to Tennessee, mate.
And crikey. And that's the whole premise of the film, right? Is the idea that they transplanted from Australia to Nashville.
Yeah, and it's a whole very interesting inside look at some of the music scene in Nashville and all that way too. So it's very enjoyable.
So again, text FLY to 440-546-2255. But that's not why you're here, David DeFelice.
Not why I'm here.
My colleague at NASA.
Well, I was thinking about that. They called from security, and you'll need to come in and get a new photo ID. So they
good.
just won't recognize you. Right?
Yeah, I know. With the beard gone, they might not let me in. Top secret clearance? Is that what I've been given now?
No, but just even to get in the gate, you'll just need a new badge. They're not going to, who is this guy?
Yeah, I don't even recognize myself. It's startling to look in the mirror. Okay, so the Eclipse is coming up really, really soon. You've been busy doing talks about the Eclipse.
Been busy doing talks. Yeah, I've been out in the community, even down in Ashland County, doing some talks there to some senior groups and to their Rotary Club and around Medina. What I've been doing, so for those who are listening, I'm not sure if I think there's still room left if you register online at Highland Library, which is just around the corner from where I live. In the eastern Medina, Granger Township. I'll be doing a talk this Thursday night on the eclipse. I'll be going over, what is an eclipse, what causes an eclipse, how it is it, what to look for during eclipse that way so you can come out. And I've been doing that several presentations for the staff and residents of Medina Creative Housing, one of our partners for the eclipse event. And one of the things I've been doing, because they have, the residents have various needs and challenges and all that way. And when I was going through, what some of the plans, we actually applied and received a grant together from the American Astronomical Society, but it talked about sensory experiences. And so we have a friend from church, John Eric Elliker, who does 3D printing. And I said, if I got you an official, NASA model of the moon, could you print some up? And sure enough, that's what he did. It's not a space station, it's a moon. It really is a moon.
Can I see that?
Sure.
Look at, I've got the whole moon in my hands.
And so I hand it out to people, not telling them what it is, and ask them, what do they think it is? And it's pretty obvious, the moon. And then what do you feel looking at it and seeing it? What do you notice about it?
It's rough on some parts, but very smooth on this one part right here.
And so that leads to two of the coolest phenomena that happen just before the moon totally covers the sun. What happens is the last remnants of sunlight, direct sunlight, peek through some of those craters. And one of the phenomena is called Bailey's beads. You get a series of beads right on that last leading edge. And then the very last one is called diamond ring. And it literally looks like a diamond ring right before. And then
on those portions on the craters on the moon?
Yep. Yeah, they can tell you. The astronomy folks, again, because the way God designed things, it's all reliable, predictable, can tell you exactly if and where a diamond ring will be, and if you'll get one coming into the eclipse and then coming into totality and coming out of totality, which we are expecting as well.
We get a diamond ring this time?
We get a diamond. I think we get 2 diamond rings.
2 diamond rings?
One right before totality,
Lauren
one
likes
coming out of totality.
Now, so I'm going to demonstrate on YouTube an eclipse. Watch.
Sure.
I've covered it.
That's right.
The whole live stream with the moon.
That's right.
Here, Lauren.
No.
So
this is fantastic. And you know what? One of the things I wanted to hear you chat about too is the animals thing. Like I've heard, of course, that crickets are going to start chirping.
Yeah,
animals think it's bedtime or whatever. Is that real? Because some people would go, "Oh, that can't possibly be true."
Are the possums coming out?
So I showed a video from where I was at in Jefferson City, Missouri, which was even more of an urban setting than a field. And as it started getting dark, the crickets started chirping and such that way. Now, I got to remember, if you're not hearing crickets at night now, you're not going to hear, crickets all night. Now, it is a double whammy on cicadas this year. So we have, I think they said the 13-year and the 17-year cicadas overlap every 200 years, and that happens to be this year. So over the next couple weeks now, I know if I was at my house instead of at the church, we have peepers out already, and we'd probably start hearing the peepers. Right? Yeah, frogs. You would start hearing the peepers. They're like, it's dark. I'm going to start peeping.
What sound do they make again? I'm not going to, you don't have to do, I'm just trying to remember.
It's just a shrill kind of, peep, 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 kind of like a chirp.
I think one time coming in the station, our friend Kathleen heard them and was scared. And we found out what she heard was peepers.
Yeah.
Does this sound familiar, Ron?
Yes.
Do you know what sound they make? You would do it if you knew.
Yeah, it's just a beep, beep, beep.
It's pretty good, but multiply that 1,000 of them doing it at the same time
during the eclipse.
And
now, one of the ones Lauren's concerned about, for her neighborhood at least, is she's got a very routine-oriented raccoon.
Yes, he is.
Tell David about it.
I actually was listening. I heard that he comes out.
Crosses the street
on schedule
at the same time.
At the same time.
What's he going to do? He's not going to know
what time it is. Is he
going to
cross the street?
Yeah.
Does a chicken cross the road?
He could. Now, because it does last, we're talking 3.5, minutes, roughly, depending upon where you're at and all that way. Probably enough for him to say, okay,
get to work.
Well, earlier than I thought, but must be time to go ravage some garbage cans and some bird feeders, and could wander out that way. So
check on him.
But the old saying, till the cows come home, cows will start coming home, perhaps. So
farmers
it's dark.
beware.
It must be time to go home.
They're going to start coming back in the barn.
Yeah.
They might get mad though if it's not time to eat.
They could.
My donkey will be all confused. Poor guy. He'll be all alone.
You have to set up a GoPro while you're with us in Brunswick. Have a GoPro on the donkey.
And see what he does?
You should just do that in general.
Webcam so I can watch him. Like a nanny cam, except for my donkey. Yeah.
Donkey cam.
Live stream that. People would pay to watch that.
What's he doing?
Maybe they would.
I would pay to watch the goats jump off that table or whatever it is.
Yeah, that broke. I have to get him a new table.
So I know some of the zoos in the area are actually, that's a part you can come in and help observe animal behaviors, those types of things.
That's cool.
Watch out for skunks. They like to come out at night.
That's true. Skunks, possum, a lot of different critters that way.
8:46, time for a quick break. In studio with us, our friend David DeFelice. He's former NASA Director of Communications at the Glenn Research Center, where he recently retired. We don't want to give you the wrong title. I'm still there as honorary communications agent.
Indeed.
Right, Lauren?
No.
David said I am.
You're here, so.
Well, but right now I'm here. 8:47, time for a quick break. We'll keep talking about the eclipse and highlight in particular an event we will be at and invite you to as well here in just a minute.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is MediShare. And maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save many families up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true people are way more satisfied after making the switch too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. See what you can save. This is a very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Attention all high school students and parents. We invite you to visit Moody's campus in the heart of downtown Chicago, in person or virtually. Experience life as a Moody student by scheduling an individual visit to campus with your family. We are excited to welcome you to learn more about whether Moody is right for you and your student. Meet with an admissions counselor and sit in on class in person or through Zoom. Schedule your campus visit today at moody.edu/experience Moody.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
8:48. In studio with us, David DeFelice, again, not former, NASA Director of Communications.
We made fun of Brian in the break because he said former NASA.
Is that Bostonian or New Jersey accent that you brought out there?
Or it could have sounded like he's in Informa. Okay.
I don't know what that is.
Yep. Anyway, I dated myself here with everyone. Okay.
Boomer trivia.
Exactly. So we're chatting with David about a number of things, one of them being the eclipse. I'm sure you're relieved to find out the city of Cuyahoga Falls is making sure people know you cannot drive wearing your eclipse glasses.
That's a pretty good pro tip there, yeah. And they're also on the various notifications saying, please don't pull over your car and try to get out and watch it. So the best thing is just get where you're going early, avoid traffic. If you have to, if you get off at work at 3 o'clock, just stay at work. Just, get away from the parking lights and the parking lot and all that way. Just get out somewhere. Don't get in your car saying, if I hurry up, I can get there in time. Just relax because there'll be other people on the road. There'll be people talk about distracted driving. So
I mean, it's probably not smart to be on the road anyway, because you know that if Cuyahoga Falls has to tell people this, somebody needs to know. And they're going to be on the road at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you shouldn't be, really. And so for those who don't remember, what time is it again exactly?
So the partial eclipse starts at, for most of us in the area, the Cleveland general area, 1:59, so just before 2 o'clock. And then so the moon will gradually cover the sun. And then at 3:13 p.m. is when the moon completely covers the sun for somewhere between 3-4 minutes for most of us. If you're out on the perimeter, as you get down towards Akron, that area might be closer like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes that way. So it's always best to check locally. There's some websites you can go on and say, there's an interactive eclipse map that says you put in the city, it'll tell you exactly what times. You have to do some interpretation because they're doing astronomy type data, but and they're doing military time, but most people should be able to figure it out. So,
and it's good to find out specifics because this is how your eyes can be damaged or not.
That's right.
Because if you leave them on during the totality, is what we call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
At NASA, we call it that. If you won't see it.
Right. And that's why I was talking about those phenomena, the Bailey's beads and the diamond ring. Those diamond rings usually the last thing you see before totality.
Before you take off your glasses.
Right. So if you have your glasses on, you want to keep them on so you can see diamond ring because there's still enough light to do damage. And then it's like, I can't see anything anymore. It's time to take off your glasses for 3.5, up close to 4 minutes, depending upon where you are that way.
So starting at 1, whatever, put them on.
Put them on.
And watch the moon slowly cover the sun.
Yeah, you're probably not going to watch it, straight for all that time. But, but speaking of glasses, I brought a few more in today.
Ooh, a
Do you
big
think
stack
any listeners might want to have a few?
Oh, yeah. In fact, somebody just was like, hey, where do I get those again?
Yeah, someone asked where they can purchase Eclipse glasses.
So there are various places you can purchase them. If you want to get them, especially if you're planning to come to our event, you can go to hopebrunswick.org, our church website. There's 2 links there. One's about the Eclipse event. One is request free glasses. If we get enough requests, we might do one more public distribution day, but for sure, what we'll do is we will set aside a pair of glasses for you. When you get there, anytime between noon and 2 o'clock, we'll have them set aside to make sure that you have them there. And you can only, I think, request 3 or 4 right now, but we'll have some extras there as well. So don't panic if you say, well, I've got a family of 5 or 6. We should have some extras around as well.
And you can do that by texting MOON to 440-546-2255. It'll send you a link back.
Now, we also, though, for those watching the live stream or listening right now, we have some giveaway pairs of glasses. We're going to give them away in sets of 5, right? So we have 5 sets of 5.
Yes.
I wrote down 5 pairs of 5, but that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. 5 groups, sets of 5 Eclipse glasses.
Yes.
So we're going to give away.
Yes.
Right now, don't call. I'm going to get it right this time. We're going to text.
Yes.
What's the key word for texting to get these?
Glasses.
All right. So text the word glasses to 440-546-2255. And the first 5 people to get that keyword in,
Yes, that's right.
are going to get a set of 5. Why wouldn't you want this? Because especially if you don't have them for the family yet. Text glasses to 440-546-2255. glasses to 440-546-2255. And one of these pairs of hands, or pairs of glasses held in the hands of David DeFelice.
You're going to get some hands.
You will not get any hands, but look at, he's holding them.
I don't think I can ship those out.
He's breathing on
Brian.
them. We're not going to mail hands to you. Don't worry.
Someone asked, will the eclipse be televised?
Yes. So if you are saying, hey, I'm just going to stay at home or whatever, you can tune into NASA television. If your cable company doesn't have it, then that's the ideal, because then it's coming actually through a wire. And if the internet melts that day, you'll still be able to watch it. But streaming on what the service now called NASA Plus or NASA TV online or through the internet, there's a smartphone app. But smartphones, I think, are really going to bog down if you're relying on that.
Yeah.
And here,
not
you
as
could
likely.
go outside.
Yeah. So, but watch it as it travels. They'll be watching it all the way across Texas. So actually, the anchor, my colleagues at NASA, I was in Jefferson City, Missouri for the eclipse, and I led a live broadcast there. And the anchor position for that was in Charleston, South Carolina. The anchor position is in Cleveland at the Great Lakes Science Center, which is the home of the NASA Glenn Visitor Center, because that's the amazing thing. We actually have a total solar eclipse going over a NASA center, which is amazing. And,
that is cool.
I'd asked before I left, said we need to have a camera that tracks the eclipse as it goes right across the hangar. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those images as well.
Now, of course, we are joining along with you in your church, Hope Church in Brunswick, for Glory in the Skies. So on Monday, April 8th, this year program is going to broadcast live from Hope Church in Brunswick. You're welcome to stop by and say hello.
Yep.
Because we'll be broadcasting right in front of the church, as I understand it.
That's right. Yeah, just come to the church, and we'll where we set up the everything will be maybe off a little bit, but we'll have somebody say, if you want to go see them, you'll see the bright lights and such. You'll see where we'll be broadcasting from.
You can come and wave and be like, do I finally get to meet Lauren and Daria? That girl, I get to meet her? You could. But then the big event, we're going to be doing a live broadcast where we preempt Chris Fabry's program. And beginning at 3 o'clock, we'll have a live broadcast with you. Are going to join us.
I will be joining you.
And we'll be able to, during the totality, chat with you and the whole hour, keep you focused on Christ in the midst of a really incredible event that the entire country and the world really is going to be watching.
Yes.
So, David, talk about the event that your church is putting on for those living in the area of Brunswick.
Sure. Anybody wants to come out for it. It's a completely free event. There are some churches that are charging. We are not charging. Everything is free. The event, parking. The only thing that's not free is we have some food trucks there. And because internet communication may be down, encouraging people to bring cash if they want to buy lunch. But we've got Twisted. We've got the burgers and fries there. Ohio Valley Pizza. And we've got they also have a shaved Hawaiian ice truck. Z's Bean and Cream will be there. That's part of our partnership with this ice cream, a partnership with Medina Creative Housing, and Chick-fil-A of Brunswick is going to be there.
That's a lot of food trucks.
And the Chick-fil-A cow is going to be there too.
Wow.
So, you eat that girl, but you can eat that cow too.
That's right. Now, for those who come out, again, it's free, but you want to plan ahead in parking, I'd imagine, because it's going to be busy.
Yeah, so it's noon to 5, so we encourage people to get there, closer to noon. Please carpool. We need folks to, we do have limited parking, so don't, say, I'll come and I'll meet you there. Number one, you might not be able to park there, so encourage folks to do that. We'll be doing various activities. I'll be doing my eclipse talk, how causes an eclipse, what to look for that way. We have a member of our church who's part of Got Questions Ministry, and he and our pastor, Sean Brennan, are going to be doing a Got Questions sessions. Just bring your tough questions, and whether it's about, anything that, kind of like Dr. Michael O'Donnell does, just, opportunity to ask questions that way. Our children's director will be doing activities for, kids of all ages, ways to observe and things to observe during the eclipse and prepare for the eclipse. Our youth will be running around doing fun games. We've got an inflatable obstacle course, bounce house kind of a thing going. We'll have live music from our worship team, and we'll have Mornings with Brian and the crew here.
Well, and you're going to have an air horn, right, that you blow when it's time to take off your glasses?
I've already worded it. Yep. So
that's Brian's favorite part.
That's the cool thing, too. So when you're at an event like that, we always recommend it. So I'll have the air horn. I'll turn it away from you, but sound it off.
So you're not going to share that responsibility with anyone?
Well, I'll be watching it pretty closely. And
he's the expert, Brian.
I'm going to sound it basically right after Diamond Ring. So everyone, in case people didn't miss that, sound it. It's time to take your glasses off. then sound it right before diamond ring again. So I'll be using a clock with actually has seconds on it and doing it for the exact time we're supposed to do.
Can I borrow it after the eclipse?
Sure.
David, that is such a bad idea.
What do you mean?
Well,
He can't do any damage afterwards.
Yeah,
He's
might have to wait
hurt my
until
ears.
partial ass, and there's going to hear the horn again. They might say, "Oh, I can take my glasses off now." It's like, no, that was just Brian. sounding the air
Exactly.
horn.
Well, no, I was thinking maybe if I need your attention during the show in the studio, I could just grab the air horn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You don't like that idea?
We sit right across from you.
Put it this, I might have it with me in the morning, so maybe we'll wake the neighbors.
That sounds fun.
This man doesn't need any more toys, David.
I can imagine. So
what do you mean? I don't know what you're
really,
talking about.
Really be a fun event. But other than our Eclipse glasses, there are glasses for sale various places. I recommend you ask to look at them if they're made in China. I really don't recommend glasses made in China. There are lists out there. So I'm not trying to pick winners or losers about whatever that way. I've done some looking around. I know that at Discount Drug Mart they are selling glasses made by the same company that we got our glasses from.
Oh.
So I know that is one source that I know that I've been able to verify. I know some of the other places I've seen some pretty cheap glasses for cheap prices and all that way. I think they're selling for like $3 a pair at Drug Mart, but take a look around. So.
And for more information about Glory in the Skies, a total solar eclipse event that we will be at again at Hope Church in Brunswick, best thing to do, text the word moon to 440-546-2255. Text moon to 440-546-2255. It will send you back a link with more information, and we'd love to see you there. Can't wait to see you there, David.
Looking forward to it. We're excited.
Can't wait to see
and
the
it
air
is
horn.
Rain or shine, so it's that time of year. But even clouds, don't be discouraged. Clouds tend to dissipate on eclipse days because of the atmospheric cooling that way. So
And on top of that, like it's dark at night and there's clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll still get dark.
Yeah, it's not.
In theory, it'll actually get even darker because there'll be no light anywhere on the horizon. So
All right, we got to run. But David DeFelice, again, retired communications director from the Glenn Research Center. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
You bet. We will